All right, so we are back with Mike slash 8-Bit again. So, Mike, what's fascinating is you are the first repeat guest on the podcast, which I don't know if that says more about me or more about you, but it's under the 15 episodes and we're back, but we had to pull this one together. So, I want to give context to what we're going to talk about. There is a recent YouTube video from Jenny Nicholas. So in my review of this podcast episode, I noticed I said Jenny Nicholas at the beginning of the podcast. It's Jenny Nicholson. I say Jenny Nicholson, I believe, through the rest of the podcast. I don't know why I screwed up on the first one because I'm an idiot. So I wanted to make sure everybody understood it's Jenny Nicholson is actually her name, or that is her, at least her YouTube channel. Spectacular failure of the Star Wars Hotel. And I saw it. It's got 5.5 million views currently, right now. She's got a little over 1.1 million something like subscribers. So obviously really good content, does a lot of travel, Star Wars lore type things. So it's getting quite the buzz. I saw a bunch of news actually picking it up and talking about it because everybody loves a good failure story, especially when it comes to Disney. So audience, Mike and I both watched all 4 hours and 5 minutes. 4 hours and 5 minutes of this review video. I did watch it on 1.5. Not sure, Mike, what did you watch it on normal speed or where were we
at? Normal speed.
Oh, so, wow. So yeah, you went.
So I wanted to take it all in, and
okay.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it was good. It was good.
It was good. So another thing, I took the entire transcript from the YouTube video with the chapters. Not all of them. I think there was like 11 or I forget how many chapters there are, but I pulled pretty much 80% of them. I chat GPT'd them to make a synopsis for us so that we could have the major points that she had in each one of the chapters, because I want to walk through the ones that I think are important for people to understand. Couple other things. We are 2 of 71,000 guests that actually got to go to the Disney Star Wars Hotel. So we are reacting to her video or her experience as people who were actually there. There are plenty of people who are doing reaction videos who were never actually in or on the Star Wars Hotel.
Yeah, like it's a sport.
So it's a little divisive for us. One, it's a soft spot for us because it's where we met. So we may be a little defensive when it comes to this subject. So, all right, I want to set it up here. I visited the hotel with just my wife. So it was 2 adults in a single room. Mike, what was your situation?
So it was me, my wife, and our 2 nieces.
And they were ages what around that time?
16 and 18.
Okay, so 4 adults essentially in the room, because that's going to come into the actual room size and things like that. We were there, I believe it was early April, correct?
Yes.
I think, yeah, it was April 1st or something like that. It was right around that time.
Very early April. Was that the second month of operation, I believe?
Yes, correct. And Jenny Nicholson was there in March sometime. I don't think she went into exactly specifics. So very close in time frame when she was there. So little caveat, it was on the tail end of our trip. So we were actually in Disney for 5 days prior. And then this was actually bringing in the caboose of our trip. How was your setup, Mike?
It was about the same. We were there for, I think, about 4 or 5 days. And then we went over there and we left the next day. So, yeah.
Yeah, same with us. So tail end of the trip, which comes into the exhaustion point, which was actually talked about quite a bit in Jenny's specific experience as well. It was the first time I was at Disney since I was 11. So I was quite excited about being back at Disney for such a long time. Jenny, it was the first time she was back for quite a while, but it wasn't since she was very, very young. And so the Star Wars Hotel was obviously very exciting for me from a grand scheme of things, but also the entire Disney trip was. So I was in a good frame of mind. I'm just putting that in context. Mike, how about you? How recent? You were there multiple times recently, right?
Yeah, so we typically would take our nieces every year, and before the Galactic Star Cruiser, we'd probably been on maybe 7 trips with them, like every year, at least once a year. So, we went there quite a bit. So we knew what to expect with the parks. The Star Cruiser was very new, and we had assumptions, but yeah.
And that was a graduation present, right, for one of your nieces?
It was graduating high school. So we were stoked about kind of doing something new with her. So, yeah.
So we're both in a very good place going into this experience. my Disney resort or my Disney amusement parks, I didn't have any. I don't remember any major qualms. We actually had good weather. It was a little
Mhm.
hot, but not crazy. I don't know if you had similar.
So weather was good for us. We were at the beach club before we had Cameron got really sick, so we had a couple of days where we tried to kind of nursed her back to health. Aaron did specifically, and so we got her back up to health. So we were like, we have to make this work. There's a lot of pressure on it because we didn't want to have to back out at the last minute if she wasn't feeling well. So we got her back up. She was feeling good. So, but the weather was
Nice.
great. Everything was good before that.
Okay, cool. We both make content, but it's for our personal channels. We are not on the Disney media list, so that's another thing that came up on Jenny Nicholson's
No.
reaction video on people gave positive reviews mostly to stay in good cahoots with Disney. We have no ties. We get nothing for free, so we bought everything. That was
Yes. No discounts. No nothing. Yeah.
no discounts for these two guys. So
Nope.
yeah. So we'll go through the goods, the bads, and the uglies. So let's get right into it.
Cool.
So the way she had it broken up, I'm going to walk down through her chapters because I actually think you and I have talked probably about almost all of these.
Absolutely. Yes. In our own videos and together. Yes.
Okay. So the entire Star Cruiser was open a year and a half.
I believe it ran a year and a half. Yeah.
It was roughly because it ended
Mhm.
September of the following year. So yeah, roughly around that time
Yeah.
frame. Once again, these are two people who were on the Star Cruiser at the same time of the 71,000 guests that actually got to go to this thing.
I didn't
Okay.
realize that's how many people it went through. Also, we didn't know each other before the Galactic Star Cruiser. Just I know Brandon said that, but that's yeah, pretty neat.
It's
Anyway,
significant in this
significant
story.
for sure. Yeah.
So we have talked before about market. She kicks off with marketing, and I thought the depth of knowledge and the example she gave and the
hmm
cringiness is right on point. I think you and I have talked about this. So why don't you kick us off? What do you think about the marketing for the Star Cruiser?
The marketing was terrible. In one word, to sum it up, terrible. It was clear they didn't really know what they had. They didn't know how to market it. They just showed parts of it. I think as it came online, the hardware, the technology, and they just had something to show. They would throw celebrities in there and then have these awkward little moments with the ship and all that. And it was an attempt. And I think one thing that people are familiar with Disney marketing lately, they tend to miss the mark. I don't know if they're having a rough transition between their old traditional marketing and
Mm,
this new younger age of marketing. I kind of see that there's friction in between that transition. That's what I'm attributing it to, not
sure.
giving them a pass because they could pay any marketing agency to do a better job. So I don't know why that was so bad. But the first video, I forget, one of the guys from the Goldbergs, one of the actors from the Goldbergs was in one of them. And I was interested in seeing what, because we didn't even really plan on doing this until later on. But I saw that and was like, what in the world? Like Disney paid for this? The marketing was awful.
Yeah. I don't even think I saw any pieces of market. I just heard about it and said, we're going, right? So I was
Yeah.
just about the experience, the lore. This is
Mhm.
something that I felt was so unique that I didn't have to go look up a bunch of stuff. I just wanted to make sure I was a part of it.
That's kind of where we were too. Once it became an idea for Cody's graduation, Aaron looked into it, and it obviously I'm a Star Wars fan, but looking at, like you said, the idea of what they were trying to pull off, staying at a Star Wars hotel sounded really, really cool and unique. So the idea itself was enough for us to have interest. We didn't need bad marketing to pull us in.
Yeah. I mean, and it's probably why the marketing was allowed to be so bad because they knew as
Yeah,
nerds and Star Wars geeks, like, we'll be sucked and suckered into everything.
yeah, yeah. They know they have our money for the most part.
So one thing I thought was fascinating that she touched on was the misdirected focus on gimmicks, which they did that marketing ploy with the Star Wars lightsaber that had really nothing to do with the actual hotel. I'm with her on that. I don't understand how any of that tied in because we did see the lightsaber in the finale of
Mhm.
the show, but that is the only time that it actually came up.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they've had like there's certain parts of the park in Hollywood Studios. They used to have that thing where the little kids could go do lightsaber Jedi
Yep.
training. I think
Hmm.
she mentioned that later in the video, and that went away. So they basically put it on the Galactic Star Cruiser, and yeah, we our experience with that was it was just a time filler. It was interesting and fun, and you got to meet more people on the ship. But yeah, it didn't really, the marketing of that, it wasn't interesting to me. You kind of understand how that technology works, and it was cool looking,
Mhm.
but I was curious to see how it actually work when you're on the voyage. But yeah, yeah.
We really didn't get close enough to be able to see how it actually worked.
No,
Unless the
are you referring to like the battle at the end?
Yeah,
That
when
one?
she actually does the lightsaber that like raises
Yeah.
itself, the one that they have to be super gentle with and they set
I
back down on the
I
ground
do
and
I do have to say, seeing that extend in that moment felt really good. The pop of the crowd was nice. The energy
yeah.
was high. But yeah, the old Texas switch, they call it in the industry, when she kind of bends down and picks up the other one, it was, it's all
Yeah.
part of the gimmick. It was
Yeah.
fun. But
Um, she went into pretty extensive, and we'll get into pricing more, but there was an initial understanding of what the price would have been, and then it came out to obviously be a lot higher. In the initial stages of when you were looking into this, how much did price pay in or play into that for you guys?
so as we looked into it, we understood this was a unique, once in a lifetime experience. The saying that it doesn't justify the cost. We knew it was going to be expensive. We didn't really see the early marketing where I think it
Yeah, I
was
didn't either.
hinted that it was like $800 to $1,000 or something like that. We knew what we were getting into the moment we jumped into it, and we knew it was just a sunk cost for the sake of being able to go through the experience. And we saved up our pennies to do it. So we knew what we were getting into. And I told Aaron many times, I said, we are not going to get the value of this money. We're going to get a unique experience. This could be a lot of fun, but we cannot look at this as, will we get our money's worth? Because that's impossible with this type of experience.
Mm.
So we went into it with that in mind, knowing that, like, from a math perspective, like, we're not going to get that back, and that's okay. Because if we get a unique experience and memories, it was worth it. And that's kind of where we were on that.
Yeah, because Erin's not a huge Star Wars fan. So does
She's
she have any?
not.
But your nieces are.
So Cody and Cameron are. We brought them into it. The nieces, I've slowly brought them into this universe. They've grabbed onto it and got pulled into it, and they love it. But yeah, Erin, my wife, not a Star Wars fan at all. She goes to the movies with me. She falls asleep. She gets bored. She asks really interesting questions from someone who doesn't want to be there, and it's really funny. But yeah, not a Star Wars person at all. And she was, we had a good time. We all had a good time.
Mm. Anything? So overall, I mean, I have a synopsis here from Jenny's marketing chapter, and pretty
Okay.
much awkward promotional video with a Disney Imagineer and actor showing a lifeless ship and poor lightsaber training demo was poorly received. That all nails it. The marketing, if you didn't see any of this, some of the videos were taken down. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
disaster.
That cringe fest, that first one, they took down, I think, a week and a half or 2 weeks after. And honestly, like, I wish they kept it up. It was almost worse that they pulled it down, because the people, you could find it online. They couldn't get
Yeah.
away from it. But the other weird thing, I don't know if we're ready to jump into that, but like the podcast, the influencer Disney podcast things that they had where they talked about it and they had scripts, that was really interesting because I never saw any of those.
I didn't either. And
That
they
didn't,
kept calling it by its name, the keyword search.
from like a content perspective and an SEO perspective, it was like, that's the way machines talk. These are humans talking like SEO machines.
It was
They don't,
awful.
like, these are humans. Humans are listening. It was really odd seeing that because I didn't see it before we booked it.
I didn't either. And the clip that she had on the girl, the regular person looking down at the notes she's trying to hide in her hand, dude.
Bush League.
It was
Come on,
brilliant.
Disney. Bush League. Let's go. It was so bad.
So I am 1,000% in agreement with her reaction to the marketing. I don't know if
Mhm.
it was the CEO, because I know that CEO obviously didn't do very well
What
at
is it, Bob
all.
Paycheck? Is that his name? Isn't that what they called him? Bob Paycheck?
It was bad, and he
Yeah.
was very awkward. Not everybody's gonna be Iger, right? Not
No,
everybody's good
no.
in front of a crowd. I'm okay with that, but then don't put them in that position.
Yeah, and he was a very transactional leader, and you kind of see that throughout the parks and what they're doing. But yeah,
Mm.
you're right. Don't put him in that position. It wasn't a good look at any point. Once that guy's on stage talking about it, knowing what everybody calls him.
Did you see the video with the young kid from what show was he from? Is that the Goldberg kid you were talking about?
The curly haired kid with walking around like getting over like, oh my gosh, can you believe this? It was that was the kid from the Goldbergs, and he's a good actor. Goldbergs, the show's great on ABC, not an
That was
ad.
brutal.
Disney
That
owns
was brutal.
ABC, so they pull those people in, and I don't know who he was with in those commercials, but the one interesting thing is watching those now, understanding the geography of the Star Cruiser,
Mm.
like the way they transitioned back and forth. It was like, there's no way where that is on the ship. Like, come on, guys, is anything real? So you could
So,
tell like what state of construction and setup they were in when they made those, because they
yes.
transitioned like drastically from one spot to another.
So from a score perspective, I'm a 0 out of 5 on marketing.
It is, if I could go like -10 or 8, like it was shockingly bad. And like I said,
Y-
I didn't see it until after we booked it because I was curious about it, but it was shockingly bad.
Yes, it did not influence my decision to go there, but it
Mm-mm.
was embarrassing when you were on the ship talking about it because I think it's one of the first things you and I talked about.
It was, but when you think about what they put out there, what audience do they think they were connecting with?
They were all over the place, dude.
All over, all over. But yeah, that is one of the first things we talked about. Yeah, it's so bad.
All right, so that's chapter marketing. She did have a little section on influencer marketing missteps as well, which I thought was interesting.
Mhm.
Overall, the video highlights the Disney's ineffective tone. Um, we saw some influencers on our trip.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I think that she talked about having TikTokers instead of people of age groups with audiences of age groups where they can actually spend the money. Like you can't
Mhm.
go towards kids for something that's going to cost you $3,000 per person.
Yes, and the influencers, one of them specifically I encountered on our voyage, they were a YouTuber. I'm not gonna call them out by name, but they were very nice. They were walking around filming content late at night like I was, so we had a really good chat. And watching some of that person's content, it's a lot like the TikTokers, it's a very shiny picture of the experience, and obviously you can't go into full detail. And like if you're posting stuff on TikTok, you're never going to capture the full essence of the experience. You have
Mm,
to cut it up in a certain way unless you're going to make like 50 TikToks that are all the full extent of the length you can do. There's a lot to pack in there. But I get her point. I think there is a responsibility for some influencers to be, somewhat transparent about the experience, but also
yeah.
from a business standpoint, like in Jenny's video, like she's doing something in a similar way where she's talking about something, but it's the counterpoint. If you are being brought in to represent something, if you get a free trip on like the Galactic Star Cruiser, you're clearly going to be neutral at worst, right?
Mm,
Because it is a business decision based on what you are doing from a content perspective. So I want to give the influencers some grace before I say what I'm about to say. Some of the stuff they posted was extremely irresponsible to the actual experience on the ship. And I get why they did it. I get why Disney brought them in, but the experience is really hard to capture in a 30-second TikTok and a 60-second TikTok. Like I think you posted a video, like we've done chats about it. I
I
have a
had
10-minute
three.
you had 3. I had a 10-minute review video, and I posted a 50-minute video of just B-roll that I posted for my family to watch like when we got back. So that's been sitting back there on YouTube. I'm like, I'll put that out there just so people can kind of see
I
what our
loved it.
experience was.
Yeah.
And it was nice to revisit it for me. It brought back some memories, and like you and Jen are in there, and some of them I'm like, oh, there they are. I forgot they were in that part of the video, and it was sweet. But from an influencer perspective, and we make content for a very different reason, right? We
Mm,
weren't paid to be there. We paid our own way. Our feedback is very honest about our experience in our position in the world, which is different than what I'll call like Nickelodeon YouTube reviews,
mm.
right? It's a little different, but the stuff that kind of bubbled up to the top, it was fairly misleading. And also the audience, to your point, those people watching that aren't the ones booking the experience. And those younger people aren't going to run to their mom and dad and say, hey, I want to go here. Can we do this? It's just another kind of misguided marketing step on Disney's part. And I don't want to like hammer the influencers that hard, because that's a hard job, especially a lot of those people. That was really the first big thing they've done for Disney from a
Sure.
content perspective. So like
There's
they want to
pressure.
play it. There's pressure. They want to play it safe. They're investing in the future of being an influencer and a content creator that makes money. For the record, I make no money off of anything I do anywhere. All right, it's a sunk cost for me, just for the record.
So I make minimal only because I have AdSense monetization. So it's I want to
Bragger,
yeah.
oh, big time
I,
YouTuber.
I think the time frame for the amount of I think that's very important. I think I did 3 review videos. I
Mhm.
did room and resort, just like I do with all my travel videos, and then food and then activities. I
Mm,
think combined all 3 of those were probably over an hour for me. So I think there were like
yeah,
25, and I think the activities one was actually considerably longer, like 40 minutes, because there's so much crap in
yeah.
your data pad. So it took me a long time to put that together. It took me a lot of B-roll, a lot of edits. I did a negative review recently of a resort in the Bahamas, and I didn't go for free. It was totally for a work trip, but I did
Mhm.
not enjoy it. Everything was hella expensive. It was really annoying. The quality was not there. I didn't think it was good at all. And I got so much shit from people who take their families there every year and get
Yeah,
nostalgic. And that's what comes with it. But
it
listen,
is.
I hated it. I got BLTs because it's the only thing I freaking wanted to pay for every night. You know, like the Turkey Club was the only thing that was worth value. Like I
It's pretty
shouldn't have to
bad.
pay $47 for a small Red Bull and a thing of sunscreen. It's ridiculous, and that's what I was pissed about. So
I
I'm
love
very
it.
aware of value as we go through this.
I love it when you get mad. I
There's
love
going
it
to
when
be
you're
more
honest.
coming.
I can't wait.
All right, marketing -8,
Mhm.
0 out of 5. Okay, we're moving on. Okay, so next chapter was a cost breakdown.
Okay.
Um, Couple things here. Lack of transparency required potential guests to call and go through a cumbersome booking process to get a quote, which varied. Obviously, talked quite extensively about the overall cost, $6,600 roughly for a 2-person cabin, which equates to $3,300 per person. She talked about some other itinerary costs and things like that, confusing booking process, add-on hidden fees, overall just talked extensively about value of comparing this to like a cruise, a Disney cruise. What I
Yeah.
thought was really fascinating about this was the comparison between the most expensive cruise room you could get, which was of like equal value as a Star Cruiser, and the room was huge. It was super bougie, right on the cruise line compared to what she was saying the rooms you got with the. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about the booking process. What was your or Erin's process for booking, and how painful was it? Because I know she does all the bookings.
Erin, my wife, is the adult in the relationship. She does the responsible things. She was on the phone for a considerable amount of time, booking it pretty early on. I think our total cost was like around 6,000 or like 6,100 because we did get the captain's table, which Jenny does mention in her video. And I think it's one of those
She
things
does.
when you're booking something like this, you ask questions. When you're investing money into an experience like this, you dig deep, you figure out what your options are, you get in there. Erin had a good experience on her phone call. I asked her about it, knowing, you very clearly, I'm not the one that books the things. I don't touch money. I'm like Tony Stark. Um, but yeah, she was on the phone for a while. They offered up the captain's table. I think it was like $10 or $30 when we
It was
booked
really
it. Like
cheap.
it was really cheap early on. And I don't know if that went up. But after that, they also offered to her, you could upgrade to a suite for $1,000. And it's one of those things when you're in the moment booking it, like she had such a good experience on the phone. She was like, that maybe. But then she had that like realistic moment, like, no, like that doesn't make any sense. So she decided we didn't do that. We were just in a normal room for basically adults in the room together. But her booking process, it wasn't cumbersome. She had a great experience. It wasn't too bad. She was on the phone for a while. That was the only real downside.
Yeah, and Erin, episode 2, Erin travels for a living, so she's very comfortable booking things. So with her experience, I'm sure that helped her if this process is a little bit cumbersome. I didn't have any of that because I went through a Disney person who
Hmm.
booked my entire vacation because they're free and they get paid commission through Disney to do it.
Yep.
So I do know he was on the phone at roughly 4 a.m. trying to get me into the resort. He booked everything for me. He'll actually be on the podcast. I interview him
Nice.
tomorrow.
Nice.
And I'm actually going to talk to him about the Star Cruiser and if you watch this review. And so I didn't have he just said, "Listen, I got you on. This is the date I got you." I told him roughly when we wanted to go, and then he
Mhm.
was booking our entire week plus booking the Star Cruiser on the end. He asked about I'm pretty sure he asked me about the captain's table specifically. I just said, "Listen, we're doing a ton of other shit. I'm good with regular dinners." Because at that point, like, I didn't really know what I was getting into because it's the first time I was back to Disney in so long. So, um, yeah, my price was, I think, right around that 660 100. I think it was very comparable to that. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure where the 66 came in, which is a little bit higher than what we were looking at. So I'm not exactly sure why, and I didn't have any stress for booking because I didn't do it. Um, but yeah, there are plenty of. So what's really interesting, if you're into Disney or you're thinking about going to Disney and you're concerned and don't want to learn a bunch of stuff, you can use these people and you can certainly reach out, and I'll give you my guy. He's amazing, Henry. Um, the one thing I will say is they should always be free. If people are charging to book Disney things, it's not actually kosher with Disney, and they will fire those people because they do get commissions through actually Disney, which is why you don't have to pay them to book your stuff. So, just a little pro tip there. So overall experience booking and cost for you, where are you sitting with that from a scale of -10 to 5?
So sorry, I've thrown off scale. So I'd say for Erin, she didn't have any really negative thing to say other than be on the phone for a while. So I'd put that like at a 3.5 out of 5. You know, not
Okay.
bad. It was fine. As far as when you're booking something that is expensive, like that is a big cost. So like that was,
Mhm.
it's a lot of money. But I would say as far as the experience, she didn't really have anything negative to report because I told her we'd be talking about this, and she's like, "No, it was fine. It was fine."
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think at a 3. I didn't have any problems booking, obviously, because I didn't do it.
Mhm.
But cost certainly was. I went, oh. I remember doing that specifically, going, that's gross for two
Yeah,
days. I
yeah,
said, but and I remember talking, and Jenny and I had a conversation, and she was like, "This may never exist again." In
yeah.
the sense of like if we do it once, we'll probably never have to do it again. And it
Mhm.
didn't exist in the world yet. Right? It was the first time this has ever been approached.
I think
So,
that was our approach too, and that was a lot of the conversation I had with Aaron. Is like we're paying for an experience. We're not going to get our value back if we're looking at it in dollars. This is a unique experience, one of a kind, and for the nieces, like it was a gift for Cody. So memories with them, time with them,
mm,
something completely new and different, one of a kind. That was the big draw for us with kind of jumping in.
yep. Okay. Well, we're moving on. Chapter ship. So this really covers the overall ship outside of the rooms because she has a completely separate chapter that talks about. So this is ship, everything included in the ship. We won't go too deep into activities because that's a little bit later. So we'll breeze over lightsaber training, the bridge, and things like that because we can
Mhm.
get into Moore's. But so I kind of want to talk through each section of the grouping here. So arrival terminal. What were your initial thoughts when you guys pulled up? And I love the B-roll had them singing in the back as you were pulling up to the concrete prison.
It was yeah, there was a lot of that footage that I didn't put in the video because it's just gray concrete. It's like you're in if you're stuck in traffic in a tunnel in a car, it's like everyone got out of the car and just started walking through the tunnel. It was
Mm,
just it was interesting. It's not what I expected. I wouldn't say it was necessarily bad. It wasn't that warm. Florida can get pretty freaking hot. It wasn't too bad. So we
it
weren't
wasn't bad.
I think
Mhm.
we drove up and we were just it was weird because you kind of pull up to Hollywood Studios and you go left, you go around the parking lot and kind of the back side of the park, and then you get to a gate, and then you get to that concrete area. They take your luggage, they go, and then you're just standing in this queue for I think we were in it for like 25, 30 minutes. And it was just I was a little nervous at first. I'm like, what did we get ourselves into? Like this is the initial impact of the experience. I'm like, this isn't quite where I expected it to be, but it's okay. Haven't gone in yet. It's fine. But I feel like that kind of sensory deprivation in that section of the queue, and then you go to the next section, there's a pretty big impact once you get into the ship. So
Mm.
I don't know if that was by design. I doubt it. I think it was just a cost savings for them to set it up that way. But it was fine. It was fine. It was just kind of weird standing in just a big concrete box for 20 minutes.
So did they so you had an interesting experience where you were coming from the beach club. I know that you rent a car at Disney because 'cause we've been there together, and so you actually drove over yourself. Did they valet your car? Is that how that worked?
Yes, that is how it worked. It's just like pulling up to any other Disney resort. So we checked out of the beach club, like we were leaving Disney, had all of our bags put in there, drove to the Star Cruiser. They took them, tagged them, willed them to our room. So we didn't have to do anything once we pulled up. They took care of the car and all that. And then, we just stood in line in a big concrete area.
Hmm. Yeah, so we were coming from the Riviera Resort, and we got an Uber over, and I'm pretty sure they took our bags early. We actually had our large bags sent over to the Star Cruiser a little bit earlier because when we told them that's where they're going, they were like, "Hello." They treated
Ooh,
us a little bit different
nice.
inside the resort. And so we took an Uber and then they dropped us off right at the front like you did. I think we were in the queue same, maybe 20 minutes. It actually wasn't that long. I didn't feel chaotic. I didn't feel because people were talking to you, they're handing out waters. It was just all very exciting. We were getting pictures next to the sign like you guys did out
Mhm,
front. So yeah, it didn't feel, I don't know, it felt a little space station-y.
mhm.
But people were mostly excited, and I was looking at people's costumes because there was people dressed up, and like you said, with it not being super hot, that was probably very helpful.
The anticipation, that's a good point. The anticipation of knowing what you're about to step into with a group. So for me, a lot of my fun came from watching it through Cody and Cameron. So
Mm,
seeing their excitement start to spin up, that was neat. And seeing other families getting excited, that was cool. So I tried to be aware of like everyone else's experience. Like, okay, are we all having a good time? How are they feeling? How are they doing? So like that area, that's a good point. The excitement there was elevated a bit. And yeah, we did the traditional sign pick and all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, moving in. So through check-in, obviously you're kind of standing in like a little kiosk area. They scan everything. They scan you, metal detectors, all that stuff. We get in. You watch the short little intro video of safety and
Mhm.
whatever normal stuff, and then you get into the elevator and you go up. First impressions: elevator door opens. Aaron's at the front because I saw your B-roll.
Yeah.
What were you thinking when you hit the atrium?
So I was pretty excited. The elevator tech was pretty neat. The video was, I mean, fine from a compliance standpoint. We know legally they have to do that.
It's not as good
So
as Soren,
it's not
but
as
we
good as
get it.
Soren, but it's fine. But yeah, the initial impact of getting on that elevator was really cool. They did a good job of kind of getting you set up. And then that door opens. And for us, it was pretty cool. We had that kind of awe, that magical moment like, oh my gosh, we're finally here. The ambience of the ship was neat. The experience of them taking you to your room and kind of having like a one-on-one experience with that person taking you to your room and showing you around was neat. And the fact that they don't just flush everyone in all at once. I know some of the issues people have was waiting in that line, but I do like that there was really only one elevator to get people in there. So I don't know how many, like maybe 8 people at a time, 10, 12 max. I forget how many people are in the elevator. I can watch the video. But it didn't feel crowded. And everyone in our elevator was excited. So you felt the energy, doors open, you get greeted. The experience is nice. They're nice. They take you to the room, they show you around, they give you a name, they have a character established, they give you their background and what planet they're from. So that was nice, a little bit of theming there. But it was a magical like awe moment for us. We were excited.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the atrium was really cool. I didn't think not having a ton of space windows in the atrium specifically because the bridge was just full of screens.
Yeah.
So that didn't, and the whole wall for the bridge was all glass, so you could always see into it all the time.
Mhm.
Um, it felt very spacey. It felt like you were stepping onto a spaceship for me.
Yeah.
Like there are no outside windows. Everybody needs to understand that there's only one way to see the sky in the entire place, which we'll get into that. But like you felt like you were stepping on to what they wanted you to, which was the Galactic Star Cruiser, which is this old, essentially the space cruise ship.
Yeah, and it felt like a luxury cruise spaceship. Like, I think some people said it felt sterile. It felt to me like elevated. You could have used a little bit more theming, but I thought it was fine. As much as you're paying, I think, there is kind of an imply that this is an elegant ship and you get a little bit of that. And yeah, the space windows were really cool. I immediately went left and like looked out those windows because I'm like, those look so good in person. They
Yeah.
really do. They look not as good on video And it's hard because I
Yes.
really adjusted mine so like it looks okay, but it's like when you're there, it looks a lot better.
I thought so too. I actually thought when she said the bridge screens weren't that great in person, I disagree. I thought they were really incredible, and I thought,
Yeah.
you know, we'll get into the activities in there, but yeah, no, I thought it was incredible. It kind of blew my mind. I was
Hmm.
taken back with the whole atrium area, and that is, like she stated, is where most of the action for the actual theater portion happens, which
Hmm.
is cool. Additional facilities in here, obviously the bridge we just talked about, which is pretty much all the controls for the spaceship and huge screens out front.
Hmm.
The ship also includes the gift shop. Did you want to? I mean, I was in it a little bit. I didn't buy too much in there, but did you guys have any crazy stories from inside the gift shop?
No, the people were very nice in the gift shop. There were a lot of people that bought the costumes that they had on offer there. So I don't remember if they sold out of those costumes while we were there, but I know a lot of people purchased those. So we got like a couple of sabacc decks and some other little things, but we didn't really go ham in there. I thought it was nice. It was set up neat. It
It's
felt
elegant.
it was elegant. It felt appropriate for the theme of the ship. The people working the store were very nice. The
Yes.
service was really good. Everyone, we never had any issue with customer service on the ship.
Nope.
But yeah, gift shop was nice, clean, no complaints.
Yeah. No, I agree. Totally agree. I don't think we bought too much. I did buy a hat and then actually ended up returning because it just didn't fit well.
Hmm.
I think no, I didn't end up buying that. We bought something. I can't remember what we bought, and then ended up returning it, and that wasn't an issue at all. So no, everybody was super friendly. Lounge. Thoughts on that?
So the lounge was really cool. I think my only complaint with the lounge is it was a hot spot. I mean, it was one of the coolest themed areas
Yes.
of the whole experience. It was a little small for the amount of people that wanted to be in there, but the sabacc table, using that Pepper's ghost effect was really neat. We only got to really play on it once or twice briefly because it was just a heavy rotation of kids jumping on it, which was fine, but I thought it was neat. The drinks, me and Cody had a couple of the non-alcoholic drinks. They were priced okay. Like I don't remember being blown away by the cost. They were fairly affordable for what it was. But the theming was really good. The music was really good. I wish that was a part of the normal like park experience. You could just go visit that because that was
Mm.
really cool. Me and Cody just sat and hung out for like 30 minutes and just chilled out. It was really cool. I thought that was nice.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that as well. It was interesting because she mentioned in her visit that wasn't very heavily used at all. I thought it
Mhm.
was actually a little bit busier, like you just stated. And during our time frame there, I did
Yeah.
get the Hoth alcoholic drink, which had like the ice cube in the top, which was
Hmm.
really awesome. It was delicious. I'm with you. I think it was like a martini type drink, which I was just getting because I love Hoth.
Yeah.
It was probably, I don't know, $14. I think that's pretty
Sounds
New
about
York
right.
City standard when it
Yeah.
comes to alcoholic drinks. But no, the lounge was very cool. The decor was really cool. It was definitely one of the best spots. I'm with you. I wish it would have been a little bit bigger to take some more seats because I think the bar only had maybe 10 seats.
The bar, yeah, only 10 seats. The performers did kind of go in and out of there.
It's
So there
true.
was a nice energy in there. But it would get a little crowded at times. But
Yeah.
it was neat. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, me too. I did not use the public restrooms. Did you use the restrooms
I
outside of your room?
did. So I did the ones in the bottom floor where the cafeteria was.
Okay.
Uh, is cafeteria the right word for that? What are we calling that? Cafeteria seems kind of like
Restaurant?
restaurant. Yeah, we'll say that. The dining room. The dining room. The bathrooms were fine. I think I took a typical like flexing selfie in it for Aaron just to be goofy, just to kind of mark my territory in there. They were fine. The restrooms were fine. I think most people did use the restrooms in the room because the rooms were so accessible to where you were at any point in the
Yeah,
experience. So, but yeah, I
agreed.
did use those a couple of times.
Real quick, lightsaber training area. We'll get into that more in the activity, and then climate simulator. We can touch on that now. I spent a little bit of time out there just to kind of reacclimate myself to like the weather, because we were talking about there's no windows. This is the only place you could actually look at the real sky
Hmm.
and feel the real air and the real humidity in the entire effing hotel, which was weird.
It
Was
was
really weird.
it was weird. Yeah, for me, I went there late at night when no one else was there and just
Mhm.
stared at the sky. We didn't really spend a whole lot of time there during the day. I did peek in just to see it kind of as the light came in, and it was mostly clear. We didn't get any rain during our
Mm-mm.
time there, I don't think. We did have a little rain when we went to Batu, but for the most part, I wasn't out there. It was calm at night. It was an interesting little area. I know there's some story stuff that goes on in that area,
Mm.
but it was very necessary for me to be able to kind of feel like I'm still connected to the planet in a way and see a Earth sky, a
Yeah,
real Earth
so
sky.
if there's any question on like the hotel feeling like spacey, it does because you kind of I needed to go to that area as well to kind of I don't even know if reacclimate is right. It just feels weird not
Mhm.
having any real windows in an entire building when you're running around like a crazy person. And
Yes.
it it feels different. So you can go out there, feel the real sky, feel real air, and then you can go right back in. And I didn't know that each of the plants had like the scanner, when you get into the activities in the games. I
Mm.
didn't know about the force stones. Did you know about
I
that?
didn't either. I didn't either
Okay.
until way later. Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a little pretty much a little outside garden that you would see like at a house in a city or something.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to it if you didn't spend the time going deep into, I think, the smuggler's story and a couple other aspects of it kind of lead you to some of the secrets of that area. But I was okay with it just being a way for me to get some fresh air. Which,
Gotcha.
like, honestly, like, I didn't feel claustrophobic on the ship. It's not like I needed that. It was just late at night, just hearing the air and kind of being outside. I did miss that a little bit.
So overall, from her perspective, it says here the ship's design blends various Star Wars aesthetics, from the dingy live-in look to the slick futuristic style of the villainous. The segment underscores that while the ship's design and concept are creative, the execution has logical and thematic flaws affecting the overall guest experience. I was very
Mm.
impressed with the ship from all of the areas we spoke about. So I'm probably at a 4 out of 5. The reason not a 5 is because I just think, like you said, some of the areas got a little clogged with kids losing their minds.
Which, honestly, when you think about what you're actually in and the execution of it, I'd give it a 4 out of 5 as well. Because there are a lot of moments where you kind of forget where you are for a second, and you're just hearing ambient Star Wars things, and you're
Mm,
touching and in a Star Wars themed area that's done pretty well. Like the kid thing, kids were everywhere. Like if you're a part of the smuggler storyline, like kids were all over that. That's where they went. So that was a little bit much, but even still, it was really sweet to kind of be in those moments.
mm.
So it didn't really bother me as much, but it's solid 4 out of 5 for me. I was pretty blown away by the execution of the space and how they used it.
Yeah, you want to tell the quick story of going late at night into the atrium?
So the atrium late at night, so about like 1 a.m. I stayed up pretty late just to get some B-roll of the ship, and I just wanted to see what it was like when people weren't in it and just hear it. So the
Mm,
audio and the ambiance of it, I picked up on little cues, but there were so many people as we were kind of going through throughout the day and at night. I was like, I want to come back here and check it out. So like I was just filming and walking around, checking out the different spaces, and it was really calm and peaceful out there in that atrium area or whatever. And I really enjoyed that. And that's when I ran into the content creator that I was talking about, and she was filming stuff with her crew. And very nice.
mind you, she had a crew and you were just one person out there.
I'm just one
We were
dude.
not lying at the
We
beginning of this.
Yeah, and that person got a suite, and they didn't pay for it, and they were very upfront and transparent about it. But yeah, they were very nice. But it was a really peaceful time at night, kind of exploring the different areas of the ship. And you really picked up on some of the nuance of the design. There's some neat little secrets in there. But I think as a whole, it was. I'm really glad I did that because I think if I didn't do that, there would be a few things I didn't pick up on from just an ambience perspective, a design perspective. And like I spoke earlier about that concrete entry, from a design perspective, there's certain choices they made to deprive your senses of certain things at moments. So you step into something that just really kind of flushes your senses. And that's
Mm,
from visual, that's from like auditory. There's a lot of different aspects of design that were really well done there that I think people don't really see because there was so much on the itinerary. You're just going the whole time. So
yeah.
having that quiet moment at night, I think the first night or this, I don't remember what night it was. I think it was the first night, was just calming. It was just like, okay, let me take all this in without anyone in it. And it felt really special. And I just really, I kind of missed that ship, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I'm a little
Yeah.
jealous that you got to experience that. I really am, because I think it would have made a difference for me to sit in that moment as well, because it is chaos for
Absolute
sure.
chaos.
So you don't go to this and I don't think I realized how chaotic, and she said this multiple times, like it is
Yeah.
packed full and you are absolutely running the entire time. It is not loungeful. You do not rest at all. You are going. She's 100% right with that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, 4 out of 5 and 4 out of 5 for the ship overall. All right, we are heading into the rooms.
Okay.
So I wanted to lead in with, it was just Jenny and I, so not the Jenny from the video, the Jenny I'm married to. Two of us in a normal room, and you had 4 roughly adults in your room. So
Mhm.
she talks extensively in her review about how small the rooms are. And when you compare the two overall cruise size, I think she said they are smaller than that. So cost comparison, a comparison to a luxury Disney cruise, showed that the cruise offers significantly more space and amenities for a similar cost, which I thought was a very interesting point. I really liked how she used a specific Disney cruise as the comparison. I thought that was brilliant. Room features, limitations, value, and practicality. We'll go through some of those. Space window, we can go through some of that. So, what was your initial thoughts? You open the door, you do the wristband. Aaron walks through because everybody said, "Hey, Aaron, you open the door." I saw that part in the
Yeah.
B-roll.
Yeah.
What did you feel when you walked in?
The rooms were very cool, appropriately themed. They felt good. I was very happy with the theming and the look of the room.
Agreed.
The size of the room for 4 people, because we were already at Disney for 5 days before that, we had checked luggage that was in there. The only place you have for storage, I think, was under the bed. There's no closets. You have
Yeah.
a bathroom, and you have like a little counter shelf outside the bathroom with a mirror in front of it. The rooms are pretty small. But that being said, like we were fine because we spent very little time in the room. The little bunk beds they had were great. I didn't fit in them, which is fine. The girls slept in those, which is probably for the best, but I did fight them for that and they won. So they slept in those.
So,
I,
from somebody who slept in those Kubies, how did they enjoy them?
they loved them. I mean, they were perfect size for someone that is between no taller than like 5'7", 5'8". If you're
Okay.
that height, you're going to be curled up in it. But for the most part, they were very happy with it. The orange sleeping bags, the moment we left, I told Aaron, I am so mad we didn't pack those away in our luggage and take them and steal them, because they were so cute and so well made and just a nice feature, because it
Yeah.
fits so well in the theming of being in a spaceship. I'm like, this is so well designed. And yeah, I'm sad we didn't steal that, but the beds were comfortable. The space
Now you're
window,
looking back. Now you should have stolen them.
I know. I'm gonna look on eBay and see if someone's selling it. But the space window was really cool. We took a vote at night if we're going to shut it or turn it off, and we 3-1 leave it on. So the downside is like the space windows look really good. The glow into the bedroom is a bit much at night, and it doesn't
It
really
is.
get you into REM sleep. So, as busy as the itinerary was, we were sleep deprived, which was by our own design because of the space windows. But I was like, look, we're only going to do this once. Let's leave them on. And I'd wake up randomly throughout the night and just turn my head and look out the window and just, oh, I'm in space. The
Get
theming was
woken
really
up by
good.
hyperspeed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that happened a couple of times. Just
So when we
bright
say that,
themes.
when you keep the space window open and the ship goes through its whatever time frame of going into hyperspace
Mm-hmm.
or hyperspeed, like the whole room just lights up white because the window just goes. It's pretty hilarious.
It's like that light speed spaghetti beam thing that goes on. And
Yeah.
the windows were synced throughout the entirety of the ship, which is really cool. But yeah, at 2 a.m. when you're tired and you just kind of nod it off and then you jump to hyperspeed and you're like, what the hell? Like, oh my gosh. And they're like, oh yeah, it's just fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I think we had it on one night and turned it off one night. So same thing. I thought the full bed was very comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mattresses were a bit firm, but I think that's most Disney resorts. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the ones that I've been through, mostly it's on the medium to firm side.
Mhm.
Um, the bathroom was very nice. Shower was big. Didn't have any issues with any of that. There wasn't a whole lot of counter space in the bathroom. That was maybe one possible issue.
Yeah.
We did not use the bunk cubbies, but they were so cool looking. And
That'd
I'm
be a
glad that,
great place to
yeah,
store your luggage if you didn't have 4 people in there.
we stored ours on the table, just like Jenny from the reaction, on the
Nice.
table underneath the TV.
Okay.
Um, And yeah, we only had 2 people, so we didn't have as much space issue, but it certainly felt like I think with 4 people, it would have felt quite a bit tight. But is it any tighter than some of the other resorts at Disney? That's a question for you.
It is. It
Yeah,
is. Losing a closet is hard when you have luggage. So it
yeah.
was a bit cramped. It was a little bit smaller than a traditional room, even at like not a premium resort, but one of the smaller resorts there. But it was still like the room size was fine. Like I can't complain too much about that. If you're just going there for that experience, you're not coming in with a ton of luggage, so it might be manageable. But with
Mm,
the encouragement to kind of dress up and cosplay on the ship, I'd imagine that means you're bringing more clothes, you need more area to get ready. That would have been hard for people like really getting into character and on the cosplay side. So I get that complaint, but we kept it pretty simple. We larped a little bit. We didn't really go too crazy with the cosplay. We kept it pretty simple, so we didn't really need a ton of space in the room. But the room size was fine for what we had, and like you said, 4 adults, we made it work. And the girls and Aaron, we're all used to kind of living in a Disney room. So we know how to kind of spread out, and the nieces just explode everywhere. So it's really me and Aaron kind of getting their stuff in corners, and like, so we kind of know how to manage the space.
yeah. The covered space window, I didn't know about the tape gaffers. What is gaffer's tape? Is that painter's tape?
No, actually, I have some right around here somewhere. Yeah, right here. So gaffer's tape, right here. It is your best friend. So it's in between like duct masking and a different
Okay.
type of tape. So the residue, it doesn't leave any residue. It comes off really easily. You use it for everything if you have it. I'm a big fan, so you got to get you some gaffer's tape.
Okay. So from a conclusion standpoint, overall, the room felt small and overpriced, falling short of delivering a truly luxury and immersive Star Wars experience. I would say, she hit on very early in the review about the word immersive and Disney's overuse of it, and I would agree with that. I would say these rooms were some of the most immersive themed rooms I think I have ever experienced.
Mhm.
Even from a picture standpoint, they blew me away. I thought the space window was such a great additive. I don't think it looked terrible. I think if you were at angles, it looked terrible, but that's much to be expected.
Yeah.
I do wish you would have been able. I just needed a button to turn the light on or off around the window. That was really dumb. So if I
Yeah.
could have kept the window of the TV or the space window on, but not had the blowing out lights, the ring light around the specific window, that would have
Yeah.
been hugely beneficial.
The challenge with that, so they should have definitely done that. And the reason they have the lights around that is to set your eyes a
Yep.
certain way so that window does look good. So that's a design choice. And the moment you turn that ring light off, your eyes kind of adjust to the light a little bit
And
different
it
and the
looks like shit.
screens don't look as good. So
Yep.
I, that is the only complaint I have with the room really, is that you couldn't turn that off, that
Yep.
ring light. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, from a value perspective for the room specifically, I can completely get on board with the justification to the size versus the cost.
Mhm.
I do once again, I do think the cruise ship comparison is absolutely brilliant. I loved that. Um, Once again, I knew what I was getting into. I think we talked extensively about the cost specifically. I was not going for the doing the division and the math to make sure the value met. So I wasn't going to measure out the room. The room looked incredible and made me feel once again every night when I was going to bed, I felt like I was on the spaceship. Truly did.
Yeah, and I think that's bigger than just doing a simple metric calculation with numbers and time. I think her scale and what she calls back to as far as like the dollars per minute on the ship. I get why that's an easy metric to use, but I think for certain things, it's you just kind of have to move away from that. But I'd say the room was great. We were happy with the room. The light's my only complaint. I wish it was
Yeah.
bigger, but with what you get, you're right. Her comparison to a cruise ship makes a lot of sense because that's the relatable experience they themed everything after. So it did meet that similar expectation, but could have been a little bigger.
Room score out of 5.
Man, for me, the look and feel, the theming of it, I'm gonna have to give it like a 3. I think the only knock against it maybe is that ring light around the space window, but everything else, I was happy with it. We had no issues with the room whatsoever. Our little droid robot thing on the wall, was a little inconsistent, but like that wasn't really a make or break for us because we spent very little time in the room.
Yeah, I'm at a 3.5 probably because space wasn't as much of an issue for us because we're only two people.
Yeah.
And the whole complaint about the TV, I don't even know if I turned the TV on. I was so freaking busy and so freaking tired when we weren't busy that I don't think the TV turned on once.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, moving on. Characters next. Couple of things here. She goes through pretty much every character. I'm not going to go through all of them. I want to highlight some ones that stood out for you because I know you actually had some interesting interaction with some of the
Mhm.
characters, which I really think. So the one thing about saying $2 per minute, during this entire video, like you just talked about the breakdown, that's putting really no value on the enjoyment of that time, right? You're
Yeah.
just saying that every experience for you in your entire life is at equal measure, and I don't think I totally agree with
Yeah.
that.
Well said. Well said.
So let's get into some characters. We'll start with, what jumps out to you when we're talking about the characters that were on the ship?
I think for us, so obviously, you know, Aaron's not really that into Star Wars, so the storyline was going to be really interesting for us. One of my nieces is heavy on the rebel side. The other one is heavy on the dark side. And Aaron tends to nudge towards the dark side. So it was definitely a pairing up of the two parties.
Splitting up the house.
Splitting of the house. So as far as the characters go, my niece Cody went head first into the rebel storyline to the point to where like she disappeared. She was gone. And I was like, I thought we were doing this to get okay. Where she's over there. Okay, I'm going. And Aaron and Cameron casually slid into the dark side storyline, not really trying a whole lot, but Lieutenant Croy just gravitated towards them very quickly and very early and would come out and just yell their names, like asking Aaron, Cameron, and they would just go a running. And so a lot of the stuff in the videos I filmed, it was me enjoying their experience and being able to watch it as a third party, just not even like being a part of any of it, just documenting this experience. Because like Aaron was just playing. This is someone who isn't into Star Wars, isn't really into cosplay or anything like that. But she got sucked into that storyline, and Lieutenant Croy did a great job of making them feel like a part of the story. I'm saying that because they didn't really try. So if you have like this kind of main character thing going on where you want to be the center of the story and you don't find a way to put your foot forward and be a part of it, I mean, it's just, you got to get in there. You got to step forward. Aaron and Cameron just stepped forward and Lieutenant Croy just pulled them in. They were best buds throughout the whole thing. Completely sold me and Cody out. It was just terrible at the end as he's just talking about, I mean, they were a part of the finale for crying out loud. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, so I actually think I enjoyed the story because of their experience, and I only knew you on day 2. So like
Right.
it was only part of day 2 into the dinner, and then the finale was fantastic because I
Good.
was actually experiencing it with them because they were a huge part. Now, so that had to make the storyline portion so important to you guys because so listen, not everybody, I didn't get picked like that, but seeing people that I barely knew experience, like Erin was talking about the story like
Mm-hmm.
she was a little child,
Yes.
like scheming.
Yes. She
Like
sold us completely out
when you say
instantly.
she got sucked in, like deep, dude, she was deep in the dark side.
Yes, she was. I'd never seen that side of her come out, and it was so great. And all the other characters were good too. I just
Yeah,
noticed that like she got pulled in, and there's a lot of people in this experience, right?
yeah,
Not everyone can get that. And to
yes,
see the characters and the performers kind of balance connecting with people, extending the storyline, having fun, and playing, our Lieutenant Croy was really, really good. And then balancing that with the kids running around the ship, like I do not envy those performers and the work that they had to do because it
agreed.
had to be exhausting because it was a full like 8-hour shift for all of them as the storylines are kind of weaving in and out of each other, and you have characters sneaking in, other characters sneaking out. Like it was interesting seeing all the moving parts. So I had Cameron and Aaron heavy onto the dark side storyline. Cody, I had to go find her at times because she was like behind locked doors. She was doing everything. And like, she was even like skeptical of me because I wasn't as far along in the story as her. And she's like,
You
well, what are
guys
you?
had like an Among Us thing going.
Yeah, like, what are you up to? I'm like, I'm on your side.
So, I mean, some of the other characters I think my most memorable things was the Gaia dinners. I think she was incredible. That whole
Yes.
storyline
Yeah.
was really great. I didn't like, I'm kind of with the Jenny reaction here. The Chewbacca thing I felt a bit forced on. It was just like very random because it was like, oh my God, Chewbacca, everybody knows him. And then he's gone.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
stormtroopers were hilarious the
Hmm.
entire time we were on the ship. I had some of my best experiences trying to get back to my room with these bastards
Oh, so
stopping me and
good.
asking me a bunch of questions. Dude, it was so funny. Even like
Yeah.
10:30 at night. I don't know when they were off duty, but like they were catching me all the time. It was so
They're
funny.
so good. Yeah, the ambient characters just roaming around, like the skeezy agent guy for Gaia. Like I was like, I don't want to be around this guy at first. I'm like, oh, he's kind of fun, but he was so cheesy. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I really like how cheesy and corny he is.
Yeah.
So like they really went for it. The performers were really, really good, but the stormtroopers were just so boy, they love bugging kids.
Yeah.
Man, they had the best jobs.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. They
being
were
jerks.
just being jerks all day long. It was
Yeah.
really good. I'm with you. I mean, huge shout out to all the cast members because
Mhm.
you had like it wasn't just like there was free reign. I think that was the hardest part. Like there was 10 kids huddled around
Yeah.
every character every time they came out of a back room or something and trying to explain the story. Like they had to stay in character, not get frustrated, and be surrounded by these kids losing their minds every single
Yes.
time.
And it was really interesting because there was a point to where Aaron and Cameron were casually going down the storyline that they had, and they weren't pushing real hard. They were just pulled in because Lieutenant Croy liked them and they got along. So their trust scores, we didn't even look at trust scores at the end of the night. We didn't do any of that stuff.
I
Like it wasn't a part, like they were so sucked in. It was like, we're just going to keep going into it, seeing what tomorrow brings. No big deal. We weren't really gaming anything. We were just in the moment, right? Cody was doing her thing. So I just became like an observer to both of their storylines and the experiences they had, and then just kind of random people outside of that were a part of both. And that was really interesting. Like how many of the games and like the stories did you go down? Like, did you use
we'll
the
get
app a
into that.
ton? Okay. I'll
We'll
hold
get
off.
into
All right.
that's fine.
Okay.
So overall characters, I thought it was incredible. I thought they did an incredible job. It was once
Mm-hmm.
again, I know we're not, there was a big hate around the word immersive. I think I think the characters made this experience quite immersive. I didn't agree with some of all the negative stuff. I thought they did a
Yeah.
very good job getting around to a lot of people. As an adult, I realize that I'm an adult at this function, so I'm okay with the kids losing their stuff and running around like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the coolness was like watching them experience it as a 10-year-old. I would have been losing my mind as a 10-year-old in that type of scenario too.
Yeah. Yeah. Those
So
kids get a lot of grace because I would have absolutely gone nuts. Absolutely gone nuts.
Uh, her overall experience, I think, was a little bit 50-50 as well. Segments highlights diversity and complexity of the characters, immersive interactions, the overall structure of the character engagement within the Star Wars Hotel experience. So for me, from characters in general, I think I'm at a 4 out of 5 for what they had to do and what they went through.
I'm gonna go 5 out of 5 just
Beautiful.
because the attention that we got from them was probably a little bit more than most. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't think it was because I had a camera and I was recording. I really, really don't. I think they were just genuinely performing and having a good time. And we had a really good cast and crew on our voyage. And it looks like the other ones are good too. But I was very happy with it. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, so just to be clear, our Lieutenant Croy was not the same one that was actually in her reaction video. It was a completely different person. Ours was
Mm-mm.
amazing.
So
He was
good.
probably the best character on the whole ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, moving down to food. So, food and beverage overview. She talked pretty extensively about, actually, pretty positively about the food overall, and it being, people complaining about small portions, which is hilarious because it was as much as you want to eat. I don't know. And she said the same thing, like, go up as many times as you want.
Right.
So, breakfast, I thought the breakfasts were good.
Mm-hmm.
I only had one of the lunches, and I think it was on the first day because the second day we were down at the park. What did you think breakfast, lunch before we get to dinner?
Breakfast was great. We have a couple of picky eaters in our group, so they didn't have any problem whatsoever.
Nope.
Portion
Mickey Waffles,
size,
baby.
I know you can't go wrong with that, right? Portion size was no problem. I tend to eat quite a bit, so I did make multiple trips back and forth.
No shame, no shame eyes.
No shame eyes at all, no judgment. plenty of food. The food was interesting. There were certain things that they like really went for that were
Mhm.
adventurous. That, you know, most of it hit. So it was pretty exotic, but like the breakfast, the lunches, like those were great. We had none of us had any issue with any of that.
Yeah, I agree. I was in the same boat. Jenny obviously had Mickey waffles. She absolutely loves them. So
Hmm.
seeing endless amounts of them that you didn't have to pay extra. Well, I know we
So
paid
good.
for them, but not pulling your credit card out to pay for them
Yeah.
was pretty amazing. Lots of drink options as well. I think they had
Hmm.
like two full like soda rack things and then teas and milks and all that stuff.
All the
Um,
milks. The milk was
all
different on the
I did,
Galactic Star Cruiser than what
I
it
didn't
was in the
have any.
park. It was better. It was
Oh, the
better.
blue and green milk.
It was better. So like she brought that up in her video, and I was like, yes, I want that milk in the park.
Yep. Yeah,
That
I
was good.
heard that. I
Yeah.
didn't have any of it. I'm not a fan of either of those. Um, I didn't get into any vegetarian things, but Jenny did have dietary restrictions, which we did bring up, and they were very accommodating with all that, as Disney always is. They take that
Yeah.
very seriously. It's one of the best places to go if you have that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but all of the meals are eaten in the same place in the dining hall, so both breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then the lunch I thought had really good options. You had anything from like dino nuggies and mac and cheese, which was incredible. I think we
Dude,
talked about the
I got almost sick on that. I ate so much. It was so great. And you have to go get your little plate, your little portions. The trays and all the accoutrement with it was really good too. But yeah, God, that mac and cheese and the nuggies were so good, dude. That was like our go-to every time. We had to like save that as like a dessert because like I would
yeah.
get sick on that.
So the trays are almost like a little Tetris game. Like when you
Hmm.
slide the little portions in, they go in these little slots and they just have like a little lip on them. It's only like that big, but it just holds them in place because if the ship has to take off or anything, it has to make sure like a boat or a cruise ship.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
nice.
actually, yeah, it was really
It was
cool. All the
nice.
sodas had the crazy font or the language or whatever that is at Batu.
Arubish. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which was really neat. I never ran into a problem at breakfast or dinner or breakfast and lunch getting a table. It seemed like
Never.
the cycling they did was really well done.
Yeah, and I think the different part is like I don't know how many different windows they had, but there were groups that went at different times, and maybe there were two or three different times.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was never crowded around that time. We never had any problem going through the line, and all that stuff was never an issue. Everybody was really nice, and if they ran out of something, they were very quick to bring more out. Like they were on top of it. It was great.
Yeah, no, I don't think I ever waited for anything when it came to a food perspective,
Mm-mm.
from the breakfast, lunch, or even really dinner, which we'll get into now. So dinner was quite a bit different
Mm-hmm.
from an experience standpoint. Like breakfast and lunch, lights on, quiet ambiance,
Yeah, yeah,
super chill.
yeah.
You came to dinner. You had specific times you had to choose, right? You had two different dinner times. We chose
Yep,
the earlier ones. I think you guys did too. I
yep.
don't know if you did for both because I didn't know you the first night, but I certainly knew
I
you the
know.
second night.
Abs. Yep.
So you go into dinner and you get assigned seats. Now, one of her major complaints, which I would have been super pissed, as
Yeah.
she was rightfully so, I believe so. If the stage is behind you where the performance are, and you're looking, she was on the left hand side of the room,
Mm-hmm.
and there was higher up tables along this like upper, I don't know, area, and then there was a down below part, which was almost like a it's almost like a concert setup where you had like a concert seating on the outside and then it went lower into the middle.
Yep.
And she was in the kind of the back left corner if the stage is behind you and there's just a giant post in the middle. And
Yeah.
I'm with her. I'm not sure they are supporting anything. Like I don't think that's a load bearing support whatsoever. So if that is not, why would you make that so freaking wide?
I agree. I I would have I suspect it is a load bearing arch going across the middle of that room.
Could be.
Because to your point, there would be no need from an aesthetic to have that there. Now, in every major dining hall, there is structural support. She unfortunately lost the seating lottery, like the table on the other side of that arch.
That's very true.
I feel very bad for her. And we had decent seats, but I did kind of notice those pillars walking around the dining hall at some point, but I'd never thought about what that would have felt like if I was sat right behind one during that. That would have been a bummer.
Yeah, and actually, probably two seats up from where she was sitting, there was another pillar farther down that
Hmm.
might have been also obstructed for, but they might have been far enough
Sure.
ahead that you could see the side of the stage.
Yeah, and I would argue like they didn't really you don't want to be up and walking around during dinner. Like, you want to enjoy the show. And if you get up and lean over so you can see, you're probably getting in the way of someone else.
Or
But
servers, right?
yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. So I get her complaint.
Yeah, total bummer.
Yeah.
So when we were sitting down in the lower portion, there like you didn't choose your table, like you just chose the
Mhm.
dinner time, and then it was the lottery, like Mike just said. So we were if the stage is behind you, we were in the lower section, right hand side, probably 3 or 4 tables back, but we had a really great view. Where
Yeah.
were you the first night? Because I know the second night you guys were at the captain's table.
So I think we were across and a little, maybe 2 rows behind you. So we still
Okay.
had a really good view, kind of at a different angle. But yeah, no complaints with where we were. We got there. We tend to show up pretty early for those things because, like, I was pretty hungry.
Yeah,
So
same.
I don't know if it was like first come, first serve, or if you're just assigned a spot. Like, I don't know how they did that.
I'm not sure either, because we were only a party of 2. So it wasn't, we would have been just like she was, where only parties of 2 went on the outside. That wasn't it. We got one of the
Yeah.
lower really good tables, so I'm not sure. So, dinner food, talk to me about that.
So dinner food was a little elevated. A variety of meat options, some exotic options that our picky eaters probably didn't enjoy as much as maybe I did. And some of it was like a little hit or miss for the most part. They
Sure.
went for some bold flavors.
They went
Every
spacey.
They went spacey, and like every plate, every protein, every dish had a backstory to it, which was,
Yep.
it was nice, a little bit of effort in that. But for instance, there was this like 7-layer tomato shooter thing that showed up to the captain's table. And, my wife has a texture issue thing. And I was like, very quickly, like, do not drink that. But there was just, there was blue shrimp. That was interesting. I was the only one that ate that.
I ate
I,
that, yep.
so I ate everyone's, I had 3 people's worth of it, which was fine with me, but it was a little bit different. The proteins were really good.
Agreed.
They did go a little elevated. Some of the garnish was like freeze dried carrot puree. Like, it
Mhm.
got pretty interesting, but there wasn't anything that I didn't enjoy. Some of it I probably wouldn't eat much of that, but I tried it and it was interesting. And I appreciate that they went for something that felt different and otherworldly. But we did have a couple of picky eaters that probably ate like half of what came out.
Yeah, so I would say probably it was definitely more of an upscale approach to dinner.
Hmm.
I thought the steaks were cooked very well, the
Hmm.
meats were cooked very well, the pot stickers were amazing,
So good.
in the different color puffs,
Yep.
right? Or
Yep.
whatever. The breading around was all like blue and green and crazy
Hmm.
colors. The dipping sauces were pretty insane as well.
Yeah.
Um, the steak was excellent, and then all the different accessories that came with the meals I thought were very good. I didn't like all of them, but I tried a bunch of different things. The blue shrimp were strange. They certainly went spacey. I love that they had, like you said, a storyline behind them. The servers were on point.
Great.
You could ask for as much as you wanted, which was really cool, even from an elegant standpoint of things.
Hmm.
So I thought the food, I'm with you. I thought it was pretty good. Didn't have too many issues. And I thought and the
No.
service was quick.
The service was quick. The plating was really good. And at the captain's table, I think we had 2 extra courses that the other tables didn't have. And we had some character interaction, which was kind of fun. Lieutenant Croy showed up. There was some story elements that happened there, which was neat. So you really only got to experience that up close if you were at the captain's table, which it was nice. But yeah, no complaints here. I pretty much ate everything. If you had little kids, I could see how that might be a challenge because it
Sure.
was very much like an adult fancy dinner plated situation. And I'm sure the kids would just want mac and cheese and nuggies, which really good. But yeah,
Yeah.
no complaints from me though.
What'd you think about the entertainment with Gaia singing?
I there were at first I was like kind of Gaia walking around and all that, pretending like she's a celebrity and all that. I'm like, okay, it's kind of, they're really pushing that. It's really cool. And I was really interested in like, what kind of music are we going to hear? Like, what are they going to do? The performance was really fun. I
It
thought it was
was.
really nice. The music was catchy. We were singing it at the end. I'm like, how did they do that? And it was a very simple chord progression, a familiar pattern, but they added some oddities to it, which made it feel otherworldly. So it was a really smart blend. And I liked it. It was catchy. We all had fun. It wasn't cringy. I know there were some people that posted some stuff and they said it was cringy. I would not put it in the cringe category because the
Nope.
performer was great. Great singing voice, really into it. The theming was really good. We were happy with that.
Yeah, I think the only thing that was cringe was the marketing effort when they put the singing in the bar. That was the only
Which
cringe.
she never performs in the bar. They
Yeah,
clearly did that because they didn't have the dining hall ready when they recorded that. Like that was, I mean, it looked good on camera, but being the camera pushing in just so close right into her, like, no, no, we don't want to be like in her face. Just let us see it. It's fine.
yeah.
But I thought it was
I,
good.
th- I thought the performance was good. I thought her manager, helper, whoever that was excellent.
Mhm.
The backup singer, I forget what her name was, and
She was fun too. I did not pick up that she was singing though.
I didn't either.
So Jenny, like in the video, the YouTube video that we were talking about, like her pointing out that that character was singing, I did not pick up on that. She had her weird alien instrument DJ keyboard thing, which was cool, but I never knew she was singing. I
Yeah,
was like, ah,
yeah. I thought the performance, and I'm not a music person, as you know.
mhm,
So I was like, okay, like I could take or leave this, but the performance was very catching, and the songs were very catchy.
mhm.
And so I just thought, and what I really liked about it is at the end of each song, like it kind of played into the dish that was coming out, right?
It
So they
did.
made like a huge like they wrapped the performance around like where the dish was coming from on the planet, which was really cool.
It was a really cool tie-in. It was a really fancy elevated lounge act. It was because like there's a little bit of a camp, a little bit of cheese in there, and I'm like, they hit my sweet spot. I'm like, I'm all in on this.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And you did get the captain's table. It did obviously have probably the best viewing, obviously, for
Yeah.
and it was you guys and what, two other families, I think, at the captain's table at that time?
Yeah, I forget it was a total of 4, 5, 6, like maybe 10, 10 or 12 max. And
Okay.
we all talked. We all got to know each other a little bit. And so I think that's the other thing that a lot of people that maybe didn't enjoy it as much as we did that they missed out on is really getting to know and interacting with other people on the ship and not getting sucked into kind of main character my
Mhm.
story syndrome thing, but really getting to know like your fellow, you know, mates on
Nerds.
the ship. But yeah, fellow nerds, that's really what it is. But everyone was really excited. Everyone was really fun. The energy at the captain's table was good. Lieutenant Croy sat down like the captain of the ship was supposed to come and sit with us, but there was a whole story arc, and Lieutenant Croy took it over for a little bit, and that was fun. Um, but yeah, we were really happy with that experience, and like it was like $10 or $30, whatever it was, totally worth that. Like the person
Agreed.
there was on the phone with just said, "Hey, there's a seat at the captain's table available for your party. You want it?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Great, awesome, so
It's
glad we did
probably
it."
the cheapest character dinner at Disney World. Well,
Yeah,
upcharge, I should say.
right. We sat down. I was like, "This is a really great deal." Like this is you're still paying obviously a ton of money to be there, but like
Yeah.
you're right. Like how did they come to that being the upcharge for this? I don't whatever.
Best seat in the house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, uh, Jenny's reaction overall was the food quality was good, like we stated. It was actually praised. The
Mhm.
main thing was obviously not being able to see any of the show had to be devastating. And I also would
Yeah.
have been devastated. That would have been really
Oh yeah.
frustrating. And even with the tables along the wall, they're kind of like, were they a wraparound bench or were they two benches?
So the tables on the wall, I think there were two benches. So I
Right.
don't
So
think
you had to
yeah.
sit on one side to see the stage. You would have been sitting at the back side of that.
Yeah, yeah. We also can't forget to say, when Aaron tried one of the courses at the captain's table, Brandon from across the room saw her face, and I think it was that pureed, freeze dried carrot thing. Aaron made a face, and she has very expressive eyes. Brandon came over across the dining hall, and this is after we'd met, and he was like, "What did you just eat?"
Think it was the second, third conversation that we've had, and I was like,
Yes,
"Well, those were interesting eyes."
you see him from
And
a
then that,
mile away.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was really awesome. So entertainment score out of 5.
4 out of 5.
Dining entertainment
Very happy
5.
with it. It was catchy. It was fun. 4 out of 5. Very happy with it.
Yeah, same with me, 4 out of 5. And for what it was, I think it was excellent for that time. It felt very spacey, very unique,
Mhm.
very different. Food for you out of 5.
Food, I'd say probably 3.5 out of 5. Really good score. Like, we were happy with it. It's just we had a couple of picky eaters, and some of the items maybe weren't fully for them. But for the most part, there was enough for them to eat. Nobody was really disappointed or went home hungry. But yeah, 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat there. I don't think it will blow your socks off. I think the Cinderella breakfast is the best meal I've ever had at Disney.
So good.
So it wasn't that good, but it was not anything terrible. And having endless amounts, like it's not a hunger thing, and it shouldn't be
Mm-mm.
a quality of food thing. It was just what it was.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Moving down to storyline. So we talk quite a bit about the storyline. She goes in massive detail. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time here
Hmm.
because we did talk about it quite a bit, but I know you had a very good experience. And I'll just touch on hers. The narrator is left feeling that their expensive and highly anticipated experience was ruined due to the fundamental flaws in the interactive elements. They express anger and disappointment. So it seems like or her app experience was horrible.
Yeah.
Getting to the storyline, using any of the kiosks, understanding the rooms, getting into the rooms, all of that stuff. It seemed like it just didn't work for her
Hmm.
at all, which I did not have that same. So how much app did your family use, and what did that experience look like on choosing the storyline?
So my niece is heavy on the story for the app. Aaron even went down the rabbit hole with that quite a bit. I probably went through, I'd say maybe like 60% of it, because at some point I did just take a step back because I wanted to observe their experience. And obviously, like trying to film for content and all that stuff, I try to be in the moment as much as I can. But with so much going on, I did kind of have to take a step back for my storyline. And I was okay with that because I had two groups completely going down the depth of both of them. So I
Mm,
got to kind of hear about both of them, and they didn't have any issues with the app. I think there may have been one brief moment where they had to talk to like someone on the customer service side for something, but for the most part, we never had an issue. And they there was no secret. If you did have an issue, you could have gone up to somebody and talked to them and explained, kind of what was going on. But we never really had any problem with the app or the
yeah.
kiosks that were out there, other than kids just kind of being in front of them at all times. And I
Yes.
think they had a bunch, kind of, what was it, 4 total throughout. But yeah, the line of kids was probably the biggest headache with the kiosk side of that.
Yeah, totally agree. I didn't know what I was supposed to do at the beginning. I think having very little understanding of what was going to happen. And I
Hmm.
did a ton of datapad work before we even got to the
Yeah.
Galactic Star Cruiser, read through the datapad, did all the pre-mission stuff and everything. So I was certainly prepped. But when you got there, there was no explanation that you'd use these kiosks on the wall,
Hmm.
which was a bit frustrating. And then getting to them, the best time to get to them was one of the dinners when you
Hmm.
weren't in dinner because everybody was in them, or
Yeah.
late at night, early in the morning, or when a bunch of kids went into the cargo room or the
Yeah.
engineering room. So that was a little annoying. What to do at the kiosk was also quite confusing. I had to add, I think I asked another guest and I was like, oh, how do you do this first part? Once I got rolling, though, I thought it was pretty enjoyable.
Hmm.
I didn't have a whole lot of issues with the data. I also, I wasn't as deep as she was in the sense of like making the connection of personal messages back and forth to all the characters. I don't know if I should have been, or if that should have been the expectation. Let me ask you a total side question. Did you ever get to play the 2016 game she talked about with the Kim Possible thing all over
No,
Epcot? That was
we
really interesting.
so we went to Disney with some friends around that time, and so like I was aware of that game and some of the aspects of it, and I was always interested. And I saw these kids with these cheap little flip phones. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I didn't know how in depth that was. I didn't know there were little things would happen in the park. I'm like, what? Like, what the hell is that? Like, what's going on there? And so now it's kind of nice to think back and like, oh, that was a little mini game in the park. And yeah, knowing that and how that operated, I do wish they would have done a little bit more with some of the data pad work in
Totally.
Batu and a little bit more on the ship. I wouldn't say that
Totally
that's a
agree.
major complaint of mine, but I would expect to have more interactive elements tied to that app. And I think there's also some limitations. So when you control the hardware for the experience, like that flip phone, it's easy for you to fully integrate it with kind of the stuff going on in the park. When you have a mobile app that has to be working on a Google device, working on an Apple device, you have to strip it down. You have to pare it down. I'm not giving Disney an out for this, but from a development standpoint, it's a different set of rules and some different technology as far as RFID and all the stuff it can interact with. So I get there are challenges there, but I do wish after seeing what she kind of brought
Yeah.
up with that Kim Possible game, I'm like, wow, there could have been a lot more going on the
Yeah.
ship with the app. So
And
yeah,
it's
that was
super
interesting.
gimmicky, but it would
Mhm.
have been very appreciative to see even like the spaceship that's in the corner of a Galaxy's Edge, like doing something with that, like the lights come on or something like that. Like that would have been amazing.
That whole ship in Galaxy's Edge, it is just teasing for a takeoff. If they could find a way to simulate a takeoff of that ship, I would lose my mind. Because that's the
Yeah.
first thing I saw. I was like, does that take off at night? Does that take off at night? And they're like, no, it lights up, it makes noises. I'm like, oh, okay. That's cool.
Cool.
That's cool.
So no, I'm with you. I did not know about the Compossible
Mm-mm.
thing. I did not know about all the interaction. And knowing that now, yes, I'm quite disappointed with the interaction on the ship and actually on Batu, because it was a ton of scanning of cargo boxes that you literally had to were all part of the story. Now I did like how it kept on locking missions on the data pad. I
Mhm.
thought that was very video game esque, role playing esque. And then like people messaging you from the ship, even though it was just predetermined
Yeah.
messages and going on the rides that played into the story. I thought that was all really, really kind of cool. But the interaction on both things, I think, was pretty lacking for sure.
Yeah, I can tell you my nieces enjoyed the app experience. They were all into it. They went through almost every aspect of it, and they love scanning crates and all that. And I think our generation, from like an RPG and gaming standpoint, I think we do have a more of an expectation of
Mm.
getting more out of an experience like that. But if I didn't know, like I didn't know about that Kim Possible thing, I thought the app interaction was fine. I do wish there was a little bit more, but like it's fine. It was fine. But now I'm
Yeah,
like, y'all did it before. Like, what the heck?
yeah. The one thing I will say is, and I think it needs to be said as a comparison piece to her experience, it was not torrential downpouring. That
Yeah.
would have been
Yeah.
effing miserable to have to scan boxes
Mhm.
with shitty. I didn't use the umbrellas. I didn't know how shitty they were, but it sounds
Yeah.
like they were terrible. I actually appreciated the water and the
Yeah.
free poncho.
Yeah, I think we were lucky with the timing of because it rained around our excursion, I think. So we got out there and it was a little humid, but that would have been miserable having to pull out your phone in the rain. That would have sucked.
Yeah, because
Have
even
put
playing
yeah.
the video games, the mini games were all touch screen, and you had to time things, and that would have been horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, good parts, bad parts, storyline. You guys got to do a lot of the app work. I didn't have as many issues as she did with the app work. I
Yeah.
got into the engineering room. I thought the engineering room was weak, just like she said. I thought it was a
Yeah.
bunch of baby mini games that didn't really do much for me. I was in and out of there pretty quickly. I didn't go into the cargo room. I'm glad I didn't, because it looked like it was a giant waste of time.
The
Um,
cargo room was interesting because there was a big story moment in there and it got really crowded in there if you're on the smuggler storyline.
gotcha.
And to a point to where it's like, I want to get the hell out of here. Like I can't, and I don't get claustrophobic, but
Yeah.
there was a meeting in there. There were a few people, a few different characters, and all the people were in there. I'm like, no, no.
Any major storylines that jump out besides your two members being in the finale as a major part? Like, so she did talk about how people got called out in the finale, and your two guests got called out pretty extravagantly.
Yeah, yeah. We were split down the middle. Like we said earlier, Cody was pushing hard on the rebel side in the smuggler story, and Cody or Cameron and Aaron were definitely first order. But the attitude Lieutenant Croy gave me throughout, because there are moments where he would acknowledge that I was filming and documenting things, and he would talk so much smack about me to Aaron, and it was so funny. Like I couldn't get mad, but his interaction, like the play of the characters were so good, but the story elements were really interesting. I think there was a lot of like sneaking around the ship, and because Cody was on the smuggler side, she was doing a lot of that, and so she had her friends that she was kind of running around with, which was interesting and fun to see. But as far as like the storyline itself, being down in like the mechanic area or whatever, I went down there during it. Like Chewbacca was down there. As cramped as it was, there was a moment where I was repairing the ship with Chewbacca, and I had this weird, like, little kid moment where I'm pulling the handle, I'm looking up at Chewie. I'm like, did I do it right, Chewie? Is that how we fix the ship? Like those little moments
Yeah.
it meant a lot to me, but I know those were meant for kids. But the story was complex enough for the three different ones to kind of interlace in an interesting way. But the story was fine. The story was fine.
Yeah, what's interesting is they're trying to, if you think about the age demographic, you're having to take anyone from, I don't know, 5, 7 years old, all the way to old adults like us, going for
Yeah,
the lore of it and making it interesting for that dynamic. I mean, that's really hard to do. So
it
you
is.
can,
Yeah,
those tiny moments, like you just said, I think there's never going to be another time potentially where you're going to be fixing a spaceship next to actual in character Chewbacca. That will probably
yeah.
never happen again in your lifetime.
No, and a lot of the joy I got out of those, like, crowded story moments was me as, like, the world's greatest uncle helping other kids achieve little aspects of their story or in the app. So there were certain points where obviously you wanna be the main character of the story, but there was so much of it where it was like I was seeing it through the eyes of all the people around me. And if anyone had any issue with any little bit, like they're doing a puzzle wrong or something, or their app isn't working, like I would just be over there like, okay, what's going on, and trying to help them out. So like those moments in the story were fun for me because then you'd see, them having a good time, because like the story wasn't for adults. Like I kind of had some of those moments just observing, like, okay, how did they make this? Because I was curious about the design of everything on that ship. Physical story, the emotions they pulled out of people was really interesting. But for me, it was like I want to make sure like nobody's really missing out on these things. So if I know how to do, one of the puzzles, I'm going to kind of nudge a kid in that direction and get them to achieve it. And still, running around the whole time trying to find Cody, because she is like lightning speed. She was gone. Like
She was running.
three puzzles in, I didn't know where she was. And she ran so far down that story path. I'm like, where are you? We're on the same team.
All right. Storyline for you out of 5. How did you feel about it?
So for adults, I'd say it's probably a 2 out of 5. For me, I'm
Mm,
gonna put it like a 2.5 out of 5. I think it was really good, but for me, like I didn't really need all that story. Watching everyone else go through it was enough for me. But I didn't really need it. But I did have Aaron and Cameron had such a great time with their story, and they got pulled in so deep into the character side of it. I was pretty happy with it. I think Aaron would probably give it a 4 out of 5 because she had a great experience with Lieutenant Croy, and they felt
mm,
very much a part of the story. And it is unfortunate that more people can't feel that way in that experience, because there's a lot of people on that ship, and there's only a small number that really get pulled in and get that much direct attention. And if you're easy, if you're casual, if you're fun, those actors and performers are going to gravitate towards you. I think for the most part, if you're an adult and you're pushing too hard and you want to be the center of the story, you may not get the attention you want. And you can
mm.
see that with some of the kids pushing pretty hard. And it was like, oh, the characters were trained very well to kind of not push them away, but balance some of that attention. It was
Yeah.
really cool to see them do that.
The best part when they would like point to the bridge like something was happening, all the kids would turn and the characters would just run the other
Mm.
way. That happened a couple times.
Oh, that was
I was
so
like,
fun to watch. Yes, I
so
forgot about that.
I'm totally with you on the 2 out of 5. I thought, one, I didn't have problems with the app. I thought it was fine.
Yeah,
I thought it was surface value for the
sure.
whole grand scheme of things. I did think some of the things were cool. I think the messaging back and forth on the specific missions, I think getting all the way to Batu and doing some of those missions was very cool. I
Mhm.
got to the Roasters mission specifically. I don't think I finished it, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, that was. I'm with you. I think it was really cool to see people doing. My favorite things were in the atrium as a group, as the entire
yeah,
group on the ship, and seeing all the things play out from the theatrical standpoint. That
yeah,
was a total seller for me. I didn't like the other stuff was great. It was good to fill your day. We
yeah,
will say that your days were full. You were running around like a lunatic, and there was
yeah.
no time to rest for sure because of the storyline.
No, it is not a restful trip at all. Now you can just step back and not do any of it. I don't think there were many people that did that on our voyage. It always seemed like there was a sea of people moving.
Yes,
There was a massive momentum going in
yes.
different directions the whole time. And the
My
only
favorite
piece was at night.
Yeah, my favorite things were dinner entertainment straight to Atrium as a group entertainment to close
Yeah.
out the night. I think it
The
was
big story
exceptional.
moments as a group were really good. Really
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Moving on to attractions. So move down here to bridge training. How'd you feel about the bridge?
I absolutely loved the bridge training. I am
So
a
this was
nerd.
flying the ship and doing all the mechanics for the ship itself.
So I am a nerd when it comes to control panels. Like I've rebuilt small NASA control panels just for fun. So like being able to flip switches on anything and fly a ship, I was way too excited just with the controls. The screens looked really good. The feedback was interesting. The games were a little kiddie and simple. That was okay with me because the feedback of the systems worked pretty well. And just
Agreed.
on the whole, thinking about the systems involved to integrate all of that together, I was just spending a lot of my time thinking through like, how the hell did they build this? Like, it's a really cool game with physical components and it looks really good. And they tied the story into it. And that wasn't like as big of a deal to me because I was just blown away. I'm like, I get to play with switches. Pretty simple.
Yeah, I love the bridge. The bridge training was my favorite
Yeah.
thing as well. I thought the different one, I'm highly competitive, so they put groups of people against each other with a score, and I'm like,
Great.
let's
Let's go.
effing go. I'm in it.
Yep.
So I love that. I thought all the stations there were simplistic but different. So you
Mhm.
got a little bit of everything from pushing buttons to lining things up on the screen with joysticks to shooting to
Yeah.
grabbing card. I thought it was all incredible, even to the defensive game that was more like the Pong
Yep.
game that she brought up. I thought the bridge was probably the best thing on the entire voyage from a game or activity perspective.
I would agree with that. I wish we had more access to it, to the games themselves on the bridge. But as far as scaling it across all the ages of the ship, you have kids playing games with adults, and there were some older people like building a system where that whole range of age is having a good time and interacting together. Pretty impressive. You can say it's simple. Yes, it is simple and basic, and that's fine. But the feedback systems work. It was really interesting. I liked it. I liked it. I wanted more of the bridge.
Agreed. And there was lots of celebrating as an entire group of people. And I think to do that with the age groups, like you just said, is no easy feat.
Mm.
Did you get out of the three choices? I did not know there was three choices when you punched it. I ended up in the asteroid belt. Where did you end up?
So I think we ended up there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
But it is funny. So I didn't think about like she brought up the emphasis on the term punch it. And like I never really thought about that because I just like, oh yeah, it's just something you say on a ship, right? Like we've been taught to do that. And I thought it was cool. Like I thought it was neat. And I was like, oh yeah, that was a moment. I didn't realize like that punch it thing was a moment. It was just part of being on a ship.
Yeah, it wasn't cringy for me either.
No,
I think
not at all.
that's a pretty deep cut from her standpoint, but hey, to each their own. Everybody looks
Yeah.
at that a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Lightsaber training, I'm 100% with her. I thought it was a complete waste of time. I hated it.
Yeah, like her in the moment, I did kind of pick up on how the system was being played out. So like the little subtle cues and all that. And it was a good use of lighting, theatrics, the crowd, the group to kind of build emotion and a moment. And little kids loved it. It's great for kids. But it was one of those things where I was just like, I'm ready to be done. Like, can I just leave? Like, we're all together and that's great. But I'm like, this is probably my least favorite thing.
Yeah, so this experience for me was like her experience with dining. I pretty much had like
Yeah.
the post in front of me because I had a child who wouldn't stay in his little
Yeah.
corridor in front of me and no parent was watching him, so he was just erratic and
Well,
destroyed the.
we got split up.
Oh, did you? As a
Party of
four
four.
team.
Party of
Hmm,
four. It was teams of four in a row. We got split up.
that makes no sense.
I was like, "Can we stay?" Like, no. Like, okay. All right. Cool. Whatever.
Yeah. The Yoda thing was cool at the end with the whole force spirit thing. That was very
Yeah.
cool. That was the only really cool part for me. The blaster shields were a joke.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
totally with her on that. They're cheap, they're stupid, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I hated it. I was looking forward to it, but it wasn't that great.
No, I do have this thing inside of me. Anytime that Yoda music spins up and you hear Yoda's voice, like I swell up and I cry a little bit. I don't know why. But it just like even then it's like, oh, I don't want to be here. Then Yoda, I'm like, oh, he's here.
It was kind of like the lightsaber builder, when he comes around as well for that. It's really cheesy, but really cool at the
It
same
hits
time.
me too in that. Yeah, when I built my lightsaber, I was like, oh,
He believes in me.
he knows my name. He knows me.
Other two places that are kind of activities are she brought up are the engineering bay. We talked a little bit about this.
Yeah.
To me, this was stupid. It was mostly, like you said, for children. If you're going to hang out in there, you're probably going to help them try to figure out the puzzles. That's about it.
Yeah, it was cool. I went in there when it was pretty quiet, and I was in there with all the kids doing their things and Chewy running around. And it was neat that Chewy was in there, but it was pretty basic. It was pretty basic.
Yeah, agreed. And then the climate simulator, we talked quite extensively about this. I
Mhm.
mean, I really just used it as a peaceful because most people didn't go out there. It was the one place you could get away from everyone
I feel like
besides
that
your room.
was I feel like that was a compliance piece. I think that there was something in their setup and they had to have an outdoor space. And I'm really glad they did because I'm with you. I'm with you. Just to get grounded.
Yes.
Just to smell the air.
So, did you know there was fire escape closets?
So that was a part of like the video, but I totally in my mind, I didn't even think about that.
I
That
didn't
wasn't the
either.
part I didn't and like looking back, I don't see how that is like a compliant piece during an emergency at all. So I
No.
don't know how they got past like the emergency exit requirement. That I don't get. But like I just when she brought it up, I was like, "Oh yeah, I totally forgot that that was a thing."
Yeah, so nice.
It's weird.
So activities overall, where you at out of 5?
So like the bridge was the highlight, but like overall, I'd say like the bridge knocks it up to a 3 for me.
Okay.
Outside of that, it'd probably be like a 2.
Yeah, I'm probably at a 2.5. The bridge was
Yeah.
amazing, but that's the only thing pulling it forward for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Down to Batu trip. So we can work through this. We're at an hour and 40. Let's see if we can get this done by 2 hours. I know this is a long one, everyone. If you're still around, thank you for sticking around. But this was a really extensive 4 hours, and I want to give it its due course for sure because she put a lot of work into that video.
Yeah. Yeah.
So excursions. Narrator criticizes the choice of Batu, backwater planet, as an illogical tourist destination for a luxury cruise. I thought that was a fascinating input, actually.
I agree. If you're really deep into wanting it to fit into the lore of the Star Cruiser story, her point makes sense. For me,
Agreed.
in the experience, I was like, where else are we going to go? It's Batu. It's fine. I get it. Like the Star Cruiser is like a little drive away from it. We're not going anywhere else but Batu. So it's like, that's happening. But it would have been nice if that was kind of tied into the story a little bit more. But in the
Yeah.
moment, it didn't bother me. Like it's an easy thing to nitpick looking back, and she's probably right. But I was okay with that. I mean, if you visit Disney, you've been to Batu a ton, and the extra story missions that you do there kind of add a little layer to it. But for the most part, you get fast passes to rides and all that stuff, and that's nice. And a little bit of like story stuff at Olga's Cantina. You get a coaster and you scan it and stuff, and that's nice. But yeah, that was a good point. She brought that up, and I was like, yeah, that would have made that a little more interesting from a story
Yeah, I thought
perspective.
just saying that we got we had to get diverted to Batu because we got attacked by the First Order. I thought that was a really
Yeah.
brilliant take. She's a really extensive mind for
Hmm.
thinking that up. I thought that was really suggestive and pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm with her on the logistics and scheduling. Didn't have a problem. I looked at my itinerary before we got there, so didn't have an issue. That's where we met, was in that hallway. So
Yeah.
it was we were meant to be on that
That's where we
specific
came
time period.
together. It's our spot that we can't visit anymore.
I know. The shuttle experience, I'm also with her. Everybody complained and laughed at it. I thought it looked amazing inside. And what did you want from it? Like, everybody shut your mouth. They had to
It
get
was
us over there
fine.
somehow.
It was fine. The theming was good when you're in there. The music is interesting. It feels it works. It
Yeah.
works. The optics of seeing a box truck, the outside of it, it looks terrible. But when you're on the inside, it's fine. If that drive was 30 seconds longer, I think people would be puking in there. But I
Yeah.
think it was okay. I didn't have a problem with that.
Agreed. Activities and missions, they were fine. Once again, I'm kind of in her court here where it was a lot of scanning, but it
Yeah.
was cool in the moment. I did enjoy it. I
Yeah.
did enjoy running around mostly because everybody's asking me what I'm doing. Because if you
Mhm.
weren't on the Star Cruiser, you didn't have access like you do now to those QR codes.
It was an exclusive set of missions. So it was really interesting. And most people that use the app have scanned most of the crates there. So it was kind of cool seeing a different side of it.
Yeah, so I didn't know about Oga's that if you didn't have reservations, you couldn't get into that mission.
Hmm.
So Jenny and I got the full boat of that mission. We had a
Okay.
reservation for Oga's. We went in, we sat at the bar, we had small talk with the bartender. I
Yeah.
told them I was on a mission, and because that's what my phone told me to say.
Yep.
So I went through the whole mission. He slid me some coasters. I didn't know what was on the other side. He was being very funny and interesting, and the character in Oga's was playing very much into the character. Like, so she had an
Nice.
experience where like the cast members like didn't give a shit about the Galactic Star Cruiser. I had that complete opposite in Oga's. That guy was in it. He was
Yeah.
amazing. And it really, that was one of the main missions I remember of being like, this is really freaking cool.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have a hit or miss situation with a lot of the cast members in the park. I mean, they're hourly employees. You're going
Yep.
to have some that kind of understand and play a little bit more, but also you can't fault them if they're having a long day, if it's hot, if it's raining like it was when she was there. They're just as frustrated as the guests are.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not like their customer experience. I hate that she had that experience, but I think if you've gone to Disney enough or you've been a part of any customer service experience, you're gonna have those moments every now and then, and it's unfortunate that it happened during the Star Cruiser trip because it did. You felt different. You felt like a little special walking around with your, M band,
Yep.
and people did notice it. And you had your pins, and people would call it out, and it was like, yeah, I'm different. I'm different.
Did you
Um,
notice her pin was different than ours?
no, was it?
She had a black and gold pin. Ours was all silver.
Oh,
Oh no.
so exclusive.
So yeah, I did yeah, that exclusivity was quite cool. People did notice, especially cast
Yeah,
members. They saw your M band, they knew what was going on.
yeah.
And that Oga Cantina experience for me with playing out the story with someone who was not on in the hotel, who
Hmm.
was not working for the hotel, who did extra just because I was in my story or my mission, was I'm pretty sure how Aaron probably felt with dealing with being on the ship and being very center stage for the first order mission.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was really cool. So that made a huge indent on my. We didn't have weather issues. I didn't have app issues. I didn't have a lot of that back and forth or not getting things. My app worked pretty well. I went as far as I wanted to until I got to the
Hmm.
point where I was like, okay, I'm kind of over this, and I was more worried about experiencing, Galaxy's Edge at that point in time.
Yep, yep.
So she did mention about a return to the ship after a disappointing wet morning. A narrator returned early to the ship, changed in dry clothes, and then actually had a lunch buffet. We stayed, I think, for almost till 2 or 2:30,
Yeah, I
uh,
think we
in
did
the
about the
park.
same, I think. Yeah.
So, what was your overall impression for the mission down and the things you could have done there, and then having the lightning lanes?
I thought it was nice. I mean, the lightning lane was nice. The extra story stuff was cool. We did like that there was an extra layer of story that we've never done before in that area because we've scanned crates before and all that. So that was kind of cool. I do wish some of the interactive elements were a little bit better. Like her, some of them were kind of hit or miss. You wouldn't have the feedback that you would hope on some of them. We had some of them were great, like little noises and all that stuff. But I do wish there was more interactive elements, like the Kim Possible app in Epcot. Looking
Yeah,
back, now that I know that was a thing, I'm like, I hope that they kind of do a little bit more for the current like app experience in Batu. But it was fine. It was fine. We were happy with it for the most part.
where you at? Where you at out of 5?
For the Batu excursion and experience on that side, I'd say it's a three, 2.5, 3.
Okay.
It's fine, no issues whatsoever. We've been to Batu quite a bit before that, so we were focused on kind of having the girls get through all the missions and all that, and that was neat. We were happy with it.
Yeah, I think I'm at a 4 because it was the first time I was at Batu.
Oh wow! I bet that was cool.
Yeah, so it was very Star Warsy for me at that point. I'm pretty sure we did not go to Hollywood Studios before that. Maybe I'm wrong.
That would have been a really good experience, though, if that's your
Well,
first
I'm thinking
time.
I'm thinking we did go for one day, but I didn't like so it was, okay, it was the second time since I was 11, I believe. So it was
Okay.
still very fresh, very new, and like it just felt very exclusive for me to be a part of that, right? And to come into that little
Yeah.
separate entrance, be able to go get your own water for free, and like I know it's just water, but it felt very cool overall.
It was nice. Yeah, I bet that was really cool because we'd been to Hollywood Studios earlier that week. So I
Yeah.
mean, we're familiar with that area. So we just had an extra layer. But if you're not familiar with that area and that's your entry into it without going through the front of the park and walking through Muppets, all that area and all that stuff, and going down the main street of Hollywood Studios or whatever. That would be a really cool experience.
Yeah, I can't remember if we were there, but
Huh.
I think we probably saved money. I wish I could remember off the top of my head if we saved money and just said hey, we're getting a free park day, so let's just wait.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I remember it being very special for me. So
Cool.
okay, so I think we're on the last section here, and it is worth it? Question mark. So she
Mm.
went extensively into it just being so they're little to no, not no value, but quite a bit less value than what was paid per minute, per day, per person, whatever. Narrator argues that the true value involves assessing whether the experience justifies its cost compared to other potential uses of the money. I think it is a very interesting approach. I would agree if you're just looking at this from a financial aspect and it's just hours to dollar, minutes to dollars, or what they said it was going to be versus what it actually was. I think that's subjective.
Yeah.
I do think they missed the mark on quite a few things, and she was very right on a lot of them.
Hmm.
But I also look at a lot of my vacations as the experience I go through with them and my memories of those, and how unique they are either with my wife or meeting new people, whatever that looks like. And I've said this to a lot of people about this resort since they ask me, and I say it is something I will never get to do probably again.
Yeah.
And I am so glad I did it. So to me, there's a lot of value in that. It goes beyond kind of just the dollar and cents for me. Where are you at?
I completely agree. I think if you look at it from a transactional standpoint, it's never going to be worth the money, right? But
Agreed.
like you, I view it like an experience. So for me, my nieces had a great time. Erin had a great time. I saw a side of her that I don't get to see that often, and it was just surrounded by a sea of people, and
Your
she
own
didn't
Princess
care.
Leia.
Yes. And like the great memories, wonderful memories. We met you guys, obviously, and I think it's just the experience it was well worth it for the experience we got. Now, if you didn't get the experience you expected, or you didn't have the magic that we had making new friends and being able to see it through someone else's eyes and taking a step back, I think you miss a lot of the joy in those moments. But if you're looking at a dollars and cents, is it worth it? No. But if you look at the friends you made along the way, absolutely. I would pay that money to meet Brandon and Jenny and become friends with them and have all these wonderful memories of my nieces. Yeah, it was worth it for us. I can say that. It was worth it for us.
Yeah, I think highlights for me is seeing, you guys get called out in the final show. The final show I thought was not, I didn't think it was stupid at all. I thought it was really
Mm,
pretty spectacular. I thought the shows leading up to it were great inside of
yeah.
the ship. I loved the cost of the ticket for Batu being in that, being the lightning lanes, getting to ride those rides. And being newer to Disney in that, I think also
Hmm.
aided in my positive experience, which is why I wanted to talk to you specifically about this because you guys are avid goers. So I wanted to see your perspective because I think having four people in a room and two is a good perspective change.
Yeah.
Having four adults, and then I'm with you looking around at everybody who dressed up, their kids dressed up, how much fun the kids had. Like, I think you have to take a little bit of a step back. But if you're going to it and you were thinking about, oh my God, I have to make the most of this because this is so expensive, I'm with you. There's no way you would get the value out of that.
Yeah, and you can't say don't think about the money because it is expensive, but like once you've saved up money and spent it for an experience like this, it has to take a back seat. You can't look at it from a transactional perspective and look at it at dollars per
I
minute,
mean, you
dollars
can.
per hour.
It's
You
just different.
can. If that's the way you measure it, I think you will always be disappointed personally.
Mm,
Um, but I think there's a lot of good in an experience like this. And to your point, like we took the nieces to Disney almost every year for like the last decade, right? So we're familiar with Disney, the way they price things. It is expensive. It is a luxury. I wish so bad more people could afford it, but it is
great.
expensive, and it keeps getting more expensive. Um, but I'd say for us, like, yeah, it was a great experience, and we're happy we did it.
So, what do you give the overall worth it out of five?
Man, I'd say for us, probably like a 3.5 out of
Okay.
5. Like looking back, there was a lot of really good in that trip for us. Even, us laying in bed at 1 a.m., desperately trying to go to sleep and just being goofy and giddy. Little moments like that with the nieces and little moments with you kind of coming across the room, all of that it means a lot more to me than the price tag. So yeah, for us, I'd say a 3.5. It's fair.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I'm probably at a 4 simply because Disney was still very new to me, so I think it was
Yeah.
a bit more magical than maybe the average person.
Hmm.
I do think her closing remarks on obviously it's not worth the cost because it closed is a very valid point. So whether our value on it is fine and it's very subjective and personal, just like hers would be. But from a transactional standpoint, it closed because people couldn't afford it and they didn't want to lower the price. And she's dead on right.
Yeah.
And if it was worth it and people wanted to pay the cost or it got enough hype, then it would have stayed open.
Yeah. But whose fault is that? Like it's such an interesting conversation because it's like Disney fumbled this from the beginning. There's a
Yes.
few people that got really excited for it, and then the people that were on it, most of them enjoyed it, and it's a very special experience. But even still, they never found a good way to tell the story about what it is and why people should do it if they can afford it. They never did a good job of that. It was like it felt like it was a tax write off from day one, and they knew it was a ticking time bomb and we're just going through it, and they learned a lot obviously, but it was such a great experience. I just feel like Disney set it up to fail.
Hmm.
Not intentionally. I don't think they intentionally did it, but I think they just misstepped quite a bit on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't keep up. I don't think I wrapped my head around all the marketing stuff until I watched it. I thought her video was very information or very informative, and I mean, just it must have taken a long time to put that together. So I think she
it
did an
was
incredible job.
it was extensive, it was detailed, and it helped remind me a lot of my experience about it too, because she
Agreed.
it was a good video. It was a good video.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you one of the things she closed on, which was very damning of Disney as a whole,
Hmm.
of all the things that used to be free, and you guys are quite avid Disney goers. So seeing the evolution of things that were free to now they are not free, or you have to pay for all this extra shit. Where do you sit on the fence of that Disney experience as a whole?
Ooh. So we have friends that have that same argument, and most of them are Disney Vacation Club members. And a
Mm,
lot of the perks that they get, those are starting to die off. And for us in particular, when we started going, we had access to some of those. Like we became pass holders like 3 years ago. And so there used to be a lot of kind of stuff built into that that has gone away. But the argument of like, this isn't the Disney that I know, I think in this world, and I am definitely not giving them an out, but like financially, with the park attendance and everything going on with the way Disney's moving money around to their streaming service and everything, they're gonna cut corners on cost. They're gonna change up the way people go through the park, the way people ride rides. Um, it is a bummer to see kind of what we have lost from that perspective. It doesn't necessarily ruin it for us. It's just kind of like a little nag when you go to the park and you know that you can't like buy something and then have it sent automatically to your room if you're at a resort. Little stuff like that was really nice they've done away with. So I don't know. It's a valid critique, but being a grown human person that knows how much things cost and knows that the world is ever changing, it's a bummer that we have to eat some of that cost now we didn't before. And it does take some of the magic away because you do have to think about a lot of those small things now that you didn't have to before. And that's a
yeah.
bummer, but I don't think it ruins the experience for us. I think we know what we're getting into because Disney is a company that is built to make money. They are built on dreams. Walt Disney has been gone for a very long time, and you can kind of see some of that spirit not go away, but obviously it's
Evolve.
changed over time. It's changed
Mhm.
over time.
Yeah, so I'm ignorant to most of that because we weren't avid Disney goers up until recent years, so probably missed all of that free stuff. What I would say in that face is it's a choice. Just stop going there.
It is a choice.
If you're
And
that
honest
upset, just don't go.
and yeah, and everything's going to change. This is a great
You
lesson
could say
just
this
in,
about the beach, right? You could say it about any vacation spot. Vacation is a privilege, and
if you
everything has
have
gone up.
your favorite burger spot you went to when you were in college. You go back, it's different. Like everything will change and evolve over time. Like the Magical Express going away, that's a bummer. But that was a contract Disney had with a bus service. That contract ended. They didn't renew it. There's a number of reasons why that stuff costs money now, and that made things a lot easier. And, I hope more of that little stuff doesn't go away, but stuff's going to change. And unfortunately, the more money you can throw at a trip, the easier they are. So like, the middle class families have a much harder time at Disney now. And the one thing she said is like on her voyage, she said that there was a lot of middle class families and like this is their one trip. And on my voyage, I was like, I don't really see that.
How do we know that?
We don't. We don't. But just from my assumption, like I didn't get that sense on mine. Just knowing how much it
I
costs
can't
and the
tell.
people, but there's no way to know. There's no way
Yeah.
to know.
I
But I
didn't
don't know.
see people stressing every moment. I didn't. I saw
Mm-mm.
kids running around having a blast and parents trying to catch them.
Yes. Any way possible.
Yeah.
Diving, tackling. Yeah.
Well, that was a 2-hour episode, homie.
Bro, that was a lot. That was good though. That
That
flew
was a
by.
lot. So, yeah, I mean, that is our experience as 2 people out of 71,000 people who got to go to the Star Wars hotel, Galactic Star Cruiser. I love that she went on a rant about calling it the Star Wars Hotel because people do get irate about things, and it's not going to be searchable as the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser because that
That
is a ridiculously long name that it should have never been called that.
absolutely. And it's funny, like when you upload any SEO anything on YouTube, you look up anything, like it's the Star Wars Hotel and it's okay.
There will be Star Wars Hotel in this title. So
Right.
thank you for riding through this. Thank you for listening to that 4-hour episode to get to prep for this. It's just getting massive amounts of. I love that she posted it well after the resort closed.
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant. I think I'm going to watch more of her stuff because I think she is very the depth of knowledge that she pulls from. I thought was very very excellent. So
Yeah, it was fun to revisit that. It was a good video.
So yeah, that is our reaction to going to the Star Wars Hotel and meeting there in space. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
All
Anytime.
right.
Anytime.
See ya, anybody who's still listening.